Hopya. Hello? Dinig na ba ako? Mapalo naman yung mic. What up guys? Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Ano bang oras o panahon man yan na nanonood kayo? So today, we will do a live reaction video dahil medyo i-edit ko to. Medyo matagal, 1 hour mahigit guys, no? So anyway, so papanoorin natin ngayon is, saan na ba? Live natin. Hopya, yan. Yung The Kingmaker. So 2019 pa pala tong documentary na to. Then, ano ba? Makita natin dito. Tungkol ito sa political career daw ni Miss Imelda Marcos with a focus on the Marcos family's effort to rehabilitate the family's image and to return to political power. Ayan. Coding with Giver. Sounds clear. Thank you. So dahil ano ba to? May napanalunan ba siya? Alam ko nominated lang siya. Ayan. The Kingmaker was nominated as Best Documentary at the London Film Festival. Tsaka sa Stockholm Film Festival. Ayun. And for Checkpoints Award. Ano pa bang ano dito? The film received critical acclaim and has a 97% certified fresh rating from Rotten Tomatoes. So this is interesting, no? At again, bago natin panoorin to, disclaimer muna. So, wala tayong ini-endorse kung sino mang politiko dito. Gagawa lang tayo ng reaction video. Then, as much as possible siguro, kung manonood kayong kasabay ko, tanggalin muna natin yung mga biases natin. Dahil pag may bias ka, agad ka na nababad trip, doon mo na papanoorin, mo na tapusin. So, tanggalin muna natin yon. Tapos, tingnan muna natin as a fresh eye kung ano makikita natin dito. At kung totoo nga talaga itong 97% certified fresh rating. So, sa mga tataka, bakit di ako naglalaro? Sira kasi yung mouse ko. Nagdo-double click tong Logitech. So, pag nakabili na ako ng bagong mouse is, yun, start na tayo ng live stream ulit. Anyway, so, para ma-avoid kasi sa copyright, alam nyo naman, kailangan natin bigyan ng ganitong itsura. Hello, Jay Singh TV. I hope I read or I mispronounced it or I did not mispronounce it. Kampi, if I'm not mistaken. Wait, tihina ko yung aking background audio. Yan. So, let's start. Tingnan natin kung anong mangyari dito. Pagpasensya nyo na again, nilagyan ko ng ganito dahil nga nag-iingat tayo sa copyright and alam nyo naman, ilang testing ang ginawa ko dito para di siya mag-copyright. Start. It's 1 hour and 38 minutes. Let's do this. (2014) Sa mga di nakakilala, yan po si Miss Imelda Marcos, First Lady ng Pilipinas at very controversial na First Lady. Okay, dito pa lang, no, guys, red flag na agad. Para sa akin, personal opinion ko, kapag ang kandidato, hindi naman kandidato lang, no, pero yung mga politician na namimigay na namumudmud ng pera, tapos sa kalsada, tsaka di ba may batas tayong tinatawag na anti-mendicants law, though pwede namang ipalusot dyan na hindi naman nagaano yung mga yan, na namamalimos. So, yun ang pwedeng palusot.com.ph dyan. Pero, para lang sa akin, no, yun, nakaka-cringe yung ganyan. Yun. Ito, 20 pesos. Ayan. Ako. Oh, yan na. Ang cringe. Those who got money should live now. Naku, good luck. Lalo na sa mga ganyan na nakita may namumudbud ng pera. Tapos, naku, tapos kabata, mga chikiting pa may kita. Good luck. We are about to go. The light is turning green. The traffic light pala.
Go. Mga bata muna, bata. Children, go na. Kuya, magugo na. Go.
Ang cringe.
When I see Manila, I feel so depressed and sad.
Why?
This was a little paradise. Before, during my time, there were no beggars. I had a place for them.
So, naalala ko yung sinabi ng teacher ko noon na pag bibisita daw si Miss Imelda, again, no, sa mga nanonood dyan, no, comment down below kung sa tingin nyo, tama rin ako, na yung kwento sa akin noon ng teacher ko, kaya daw wala daw mga beggars noon o yung mga pulube, dahil pag may mga bisita si Madam Imelda, ay nilalagay niya to sa special place. So, di ko alam kung saan special place siya, basta tinatago niya, kunwari, dadaan sa ganyang street, tanggal lahat ng mga yan. So, parang ano, no, parang North Korea style pala noon. Na parang, alam nyo, di ba, yung parang nililinis nila yung kalsada or what. Pero, anyway.
This is the palace.
Oh, Malacanang.
I miss the clout of being First Lady.
Oh.
Not exactly the palace because it was not really a very comfortable place to live in.
Akala ko yung salitang clout na uso lang ngayong ano. So, matagal na pala. Sorry naman. Matagal na pala uso yung salitang clout.
But I miss the clout wherein you can do so much.
Oh, okay. Ito ba yung meme?
After 30 years, Marcos is still not buried. He's lying in state in Ilocos, near our...
Ay, ito nga yung meme. Yung ginawa nilang meme kay Miss Imelda. Ako, no, ang personal opinion ko doon sa meme na yon, kahit sino pa yan, no, basta pag may nakahalong patay or what, huwag nyo naman gawing katatawanan. Kahit sabihin natin kontrabida pa yung mga Marcoses. That's not fair. Pati yung kay Ninoy, na parang pagtitripan nyo, pinagtatawanan yung pagkamatay nila. No, stop that. Please, guys, stop that, huwag nyo gawing katatawanan yung mga patay, lalo na yung mga ganyan. Nung una, syempre, aminin ko natawa ko, pero later I realize, syempre, parang offensive ang mga ganong meme.
Mansion. I always visit him when I'm there.
She's using the body for political purposes
Eta
because
Rosales.
her big dream is to restore the greatness of the Marcos family, and it can only be done if you give him a hero's burial. And of course, outside of that, getting one of the children to run for the presidency. The main goal of Imelda Marcos is to vindicate the family's honor, the family's name, except that the Filipino nation will never allow for that.
I, Ferdinand E. Marcos,
My husband, President Marcos, became president at the height of the Cold War.
Ferdinand Marcos was the most powerful man ever to rule the Philippines. His stature
powerful.
among world leaders brought him credibility at home.
Which is, I think, I do agree in some point na talagang napaka-powerful ni Mr. Ferdinand Marcos, no? At the mere fact na until now, pinagdedebatihan pa rin siya, unlike sa ibang mga presidente natin sa Pilipinas, it shows talaga na ganun siya ka-influential whether you like him or not.
We love your adherence to democratic principle and to the democratic processes.
The Marcos family appeared
Ayun,
to be
saganda
living
rin si
the
Melda.
Filipino equivalent of Camelot.
She made it known that she would one day be more than the average First Lady.
Marcos's wife Imelda is seen by many as the real power behind her husband's regime.
Imelda
Parang ang naalala ko dito parang si GMA. So ang panira noon daw kay GMA, ang talagang gumagawa ng mga power moves, si Miss Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, si yung kanyang ang first gentleman na si ano nga ba yung pangalan? Nakalimutan ko na yung pangalan ng first gentleman. Basta yon. So parang ganito rin yung nangyari kay Ferdinand Marcos.
embraced fame with a passion. The first lady in a
Rampo.
political dynasty that ruled as if the Philippines
Oh my gosh, ang cringe naman itong painting na to. Wow.
were a personal treasure. But for all that, friends say Imelda is a deeply committed politician who believes she is closely associated with her people's destiny.
My dream
Sa Java pre-reaction text dyan sa screen. Yes po, kasi upon testing, meron kasing copyright. So, upon testing, ito yung pinaka parang hindi siya tumatak or hindi siya kinagat ng content ID ng YouTube. So, again, pagpasensya nyo na, pero ganun talaga, wala akong magagawa. Kundi, hindi naman mapapanood itong video na to kung walang ganyan. Pagpasensya nyo na po, guys. Anyway, let's continue.
for my country is to regain paradise for all.
Oh my gosh, ang cringe naman ito. Ano to si Malakas at saka si maganda.
And everything that was beautiful, that would make people happy, would be there. But I don't just dream. I want to give birth to it. I want to make it real.
Kingmaker. Wow.
Hello.
Head Executive Assistant.
Saan siya? Hospital?
This is one of
Philippine Children's Medical... Hindi ko na babasa.
your very good projects, which has been here for 34 years. Center for Cancer Patients, Kids with Cancer.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Kumusta? Shirley.
Sino si Shirley?
Shirley. Bigyan mo ako 5,000.
Sabi niya, bigyan mo ko ng 5,000. So, ang translation niya dito, give me some money to give away. Oh my gosh.
Candy para sa mga bata.
Candy, 1,000.
Ayoko. Salamat po, madam.
Oh, candy.
Thank you po.
Bili ka ng candy. O banak. Oh.
Salamat po. Thank you po.
Okay. So, di ko alam kung anong i-react ko sa ganito. Hati ang pakiramdam ko eh. Is it ethical to do this or what? Though naghihirap naman sila, pero sabi nga nila pansamantalang tulong lang naman yan. At least kahit paano makaraos. Pero dahil may camera naman, parang nagmumukhang naman siya, pakitang tao. So hati ang kalooban ko pagdating sa ginagawa niya. Though nakakatulong, pero syempre, parang masasabi rin natin poverty porn, no? Maganda. Ang hirap eh, mahirap ang Kayo guys, anong comment nyo? Anyway, tuloy natin.
I'm really so shocked because this was like a playhouse and there was music and there was beauty everywhere where children could play. I'm so disappointed. Now,
Yan yung isang napansin ko rin problem guys sa atin. Yung tinatawag nga nila na revenge politics na, for example, kahit anong galit nyo kay Miss Imelda, may project siya na dahil sa kanya parang nakapangalan yung project na to, parang alam niyo na hindi na sinusuportahan ng susunod na gobyerno kaya napapabayaan. So that's just sad. So ito yung nakakatakot ngayon sa nangyayari ngayon sa build program ni Duterte na baka pag opposition yung ang humawak, mapabayaan na yung mga projects. So sana tigilan na natin yung mga revenge politics, no? Dahil hindi yun ikauunlad ng bansa. Kung gusto nyo magdemanda, magdemandahan sila. Pero yung mga proyekto magaganda sa bayan, ituloy.
This government has no soul, has no heart.
This government. Alam ko kay Noy Noy ito eh. Daming painting ah.
Okay na my cup. So, tingnan mo. Sit down.
Grabe, yan, paintings, ang dami ah.
Yung chan ko hindi malaki.
Ang tiyan ko di malaki.
And look straight at me at my camera.
Medyo malaki nga.
Look at me.
Well, I had a beautiful and very happy childhood until I was 8 years old. But when I lost my mother, it seemed like I lost everything. And being orphaned from a mother and left with nothing, I was always looking for someone to love me.
Oh.
This created my character. I grew up in the province. When there was this Miss Universe contest, I went to Manila and they made me Miss Manila.
To be fair naman talaga kay Miss Imelda Marcos, may itsura siya eh. Di ba yung mga Romualdez? Maganda yung mga lahi ng Romualdez eh.
Then that's how Marcos became aware there was an Imelda in Manila. When I met Ferdinand Marcos, who
Kamukha ba ni Francis Leo Marcos?
was a congressman, in the first 20 minutes, he proposed marriage.
Ay wow. Agad-agad?
I realized maybe this is the love, the mothering that I'm waiting for. So in 11 days, we got married. I was lucky to have a husband and a mother too.
He was brilliant beyond all imagining, and she was drop-dead gorgeous. They have style with the capital
So, totoo pala yung mga ganito salamin. Kala ko, sa pinikula lang to, yung mga ganitong eyeglasses na super laki, tsaka super taas ng grado.
S.
Sabi dito, yes, that's the dirty side of politics. They're not for the interest of the Filipino people, but for their own legacy. That is so true. Nakapakasad lang na ganun tayo. Ganun sila.
Marcos bought this house in 1946. This is where he brought me when we got married. After all this shoe thing about Imelda, having so many shoes, so people will give me things like this.
Okay,
So
sapatos
you see,
pala yun.
the shoes became a joke. This is Ferdinand Marcos.
So, mga
In
campaign
some of the
pictures.
campaigns. I was of help to him because our family happens to be strategically on the other side of the Philippines. My family comes from the south, and he comes from the north. And so it was a good combination, and I could campaign and I would sing too.
Copyrighted ba itong kantang to? So ever since talaga guys, sa Pilipinas, no, ewan ko sa ibang bansa, nauso talaga itong may kantahan, may sayawang pag-campaign period. So di ko alam sa ibang bansa kung ganun din ba. Yung mga OFW na nanonood, kung sa US, may ganyan din ba? Na parang may kantahan, siguro may sayawan, pero yung may kantahan ng mga ng mga kandidato, ganun din ba?
In the beginning, I was having a hard time because here in this house, there were always plenty of people, and I was not used to that. Everything became so public. I had to cut ribbons, I had to do this, I had to do that.
Ganun
It
talaga.
came to a point that I could not take politics, really. And I was brought to the hospital in New
Psychiatric
York
hospital?
because I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. And the doctor said, there's nothing wrong with her. She does not like politics only.
Wow.
Then Marcos answered, if that's the case, right now I quit politics. When I heard that, and I knew he wanted to be president so that he could maximize his wealth and talent.
Wealth and talent. Ako, pag narinig ng mga ano yan, ng mga anti-Marcos, naku, sabihin nila, pera na naman. Diba? Kaya, minsan, pag talagang nagsasalita, kailangan mo mag-ingat eh. Wealth and power.
Then I said to myself, shame on you, Imelda. Here is one man who's going to give up everything for you. I had to get a psychologist to say how lucky I am that I am honored to cut ribbons, how lucky I am that I'm invited here, how lucky I am that people come to my house, how lucky I am. Eventually, I believed it, and before I knew it, I was really lucky and happy. I was completely different after that.
Siguro yung mga psych nating nanonood, for sure, they can testify naman na may iba't ibang threshold siguro yung mga depression ng bawat tao. So, kung sabihin natin sa side ni Miss Imelda, ay in first place daw talagang nagkaroon siya ng, hindi naman trauma, pero parang napunta pa siya sa psychologist para dahil sa depression niya patungkol dito sa pagpa-politicians or yung mga pagkakat ng ribbon, ay siguro pwedeng totoo naman at hindi natin pwedeng pasinungalingan.
Imelda very much enjoyed the role of First Lady, and Marcos was afraid.
Sino to? Beth Day Romulo, journalist, widow of Marcos foreign minister. Okay?
To leave the Philippines for fear there'd be a coup. So he used Imelda
Emperor.
as the surrogate president, and she loved that.
I did not want to read books about the leaders that I was going to meet because I had my own eyes, I had my own ears and senses.
Fidel Castro.
Many leaders were called
Gaddafi.
monsters. I did not find they were very humane, they were generous, they were kind. And if I did not know what was the problem, I would ask Chairman Mao, what's your problem? It's the same with Saddam Hussein, what's your problem? I can really say that there was no mission at the height of the Cold War that I failed.
Saan na pupunta?
Here is Russia.
Natay, basag. Okay, cringe.
Here is Russia with Burgorny there.
Nabasag talaga.
And here is Mrs. Mao. This is President Nixon playing the piano and I'm singing there.
Wow. Ganun ka-impluensya. Hello, Grisball.
On me at my suite at Waldorf. He was very nice and very human. But he was misunderstood. There are many things women can do.
Henry Kissinger.
Sometimes it helps
Sikat talaga siya nung
that you're
panahon.
not taken too seriously. This is the romantic Ferdinand Marcos. Every time
Wow, romantic.
I would go abroad, he would give me a picture and of him, and here he would write, "I shall bear my loneliness when you are away to my eternal love."
Ngayon, di na uso yata yung mga ganyan, no? Yung may mga picture tapos merong mga dedication. Uso pa bang ngayon yan, guys? Parang wala na akong nakikitang gumagawa ng ganyan ngayon. Pabagyo?
I must say that now that I look back at 35 years of marriage to Marcos, I had a beautiful married life, and I don't remember any bad or ugly, sad situation.
Oh, macho.
Marcos had an eye for the ladies, which he didn't give up when he married, I might add. He had a world map, and he picked the farthest places from Manila he could send his wife and got her out of the way so he could carry on his affairs. And the one that he made a mistake about was this Dovey Beams, who was
Kabit
an
niya.
American.
Oh, ito yung kabit ni Ferdinand Marcos.
Disgusting. Very disgusting. Oh, I'm sure Imelda was heartbroken about that. I'm sorry that he did that. That was very sad for me.
Di ko nakikita yun na pinag-uusapan yan sa mga comment section ng page ko. Yung itong issue na to na kabit ni Mr. Ferdinand Marcos.
She had loved Marcos, and it did hurt her that he went to other women.
No.
I mean, she cried once on the general's shoulder, and she said, I give him everything he wants, and still he cheats on me. Oh, yes, there was a tape recorder under the bed. That was it. So that's what she held over him. When she wanted something new, she would say, I'll play the tapes again, and he'd give in to whatever she said.
So yun lang. Nakarating sa kanya yung tape. Audio tape ng kalandian ni Mr. Ferdinand Marcos do sa kabit niya. So ayun lang. Hindi ko alam sino ba yun alam nyo ba? Sino ba nagtanim ng Ang nabasa ko parang yung girl daw or yung kabit ni Mr. Marcos yung naglagay ng tape eh. Kaya yun ang bala niya. Tapos binigay din kay Miss Imelda yung tape na yon at naging bala ni Miss Imelda yung kay Ferdinand. Na every time na may kakaroon siya ng gusto, pwede niya nang i-play lang yung tape na yon. Walang magagawa si Ferdinand Marcos. I think.
After that, no one would ever stop her from anything. It was a shame because her personality changed too.
Knock down the whole thing there behind, and then knock down all the houses there in the guest house. Miss Marcos wants to expand because progress cannot wait.
When Marcos became president, the Philippines was only 22 years after World War II. Manila was leveled to the ground like Warsaw. We had no rice, we had no water, we had no light, we had nothing.
So, para dito sa first part pa lang to ng pinapanood natin, parang initial na nagigets ko dahil dun sa affair na yon, tila nagkaroon ng ibang kaisipan or hindi naman siguro kaisipan pero parang naging mas assertive na si Miss Imelda Marcos. And yun nga yung sinasabi nung kanina, nung isa nagtestimony na parang iba bigla yung personality niya. So from parang pa-chill-chill lang na first lady, naging aggressive siya. So parang lumilitaw ngayon siya. Kaya pala Kingmaker dahil siya ngayon yung gumagawa na ng parang masabi natin mga moves in terms of politics na rin.
So we had to do it with the meager amount.
And then everyone feels good because they're doing it voluntarily. It's a motivation much deeper than when you have a whip all the time telling them, do this, don't do this. And I cannot stand this whipping all the time.
The Marcoses were living like
Ito ba yung sinira nila? Yung pinaputukan?
kings. No two ways about it. They spent money, all right, they did.
Melda, they used to say, had an edifice complex. She loved buildings. And I think that probably, in some ways, traces back to her background, which was relatively humble. She called me one day when she was staying at the Waldorf in New York. What do you think of the Crown Building? I said, it's beautiful, 57th and 5th and all that, and it's a lovely building. She said, I'm going to buy it.
Ay, wow.
And then she bought 4 more.
Diyan tayo ngayon magtataka. Saan nanggaling ang pera na pambili ni Miss Imelda Marcos dyan? So, diyan na nagkakaroon ng masabi natin mga conspiracies. Kaya meron tayong tinatawag, o meron silang tinatawag na ill-gotten wealth. Kaya tingnan mo naman, sino ba naman sa panahon na yan na makakabili ng building? Sa Amerika pa yata ito kung doon nagkakamali, no? So, talagang questionable.
Another $100 million to play around with.
She was a spontaneous person for acquisitions. If she saw something she liked, she'd take it. Like buying out jewelry stores in Paris. And shipping animals from Africa.
So kung pro Marcos ako, ang pwede ko siguro sabihin dyan, ganun talaga kayaman ang Pilipinas noon. Kaso, hindi ko ma-reconcile. Kasi bakit, para saan yung building sa Amerika? So,
We were
ano? Galing sa new investors ang pera. Aksi!
On safari in Kenya, and Imelda was fascinated with the wild animals.
I got so envious that we did not have those.
So she ordered them. You know, like you buy a dress in Paris, you bring an animal from Africa.
Then I said, I will complete paradise for the Philippines because
wow.
we will also have the animals from Africa here.
Di ba bawal na ngayon yan? I'm not updated sa mga rules ngayon ng pagnenenok ng mga hayop sa ibang bansa.
There was an American Texas rancher called Frank Itoria. He had met the late President Marcos long before he became president in 1954. The president asked Frank, could they put some animals on an island? And they started talking about getting exotic animals in.
Well, the new president of Kenya has put an embargo on shipping any more wild animals out of Kenya.
Marcos
Couldn't
Frento.
do it. And a telephone rang. And my wife said, it's the president of the Philippines calling you. I said, hello, Mr. President. He said, Frank. So I went and talked with President Kenyatta, and he agreed to let me have the animals. He said, and by the way, I left a large briefcase on his desk. He said, need I say more? I said, no, sir, you don't have to say more.
Bakit? Anong hawak eh? Pera? Ito, actual na paghuli at yan yung ibibigay sa Pilipinas?
We already got a lot of animals in captivity, particularly giraffe, virtual zebra, impala, and water bucks.
I have no idea what it cost, but she got her own little private zoo shipped from Africa.
Yap, bawal na unless for livestock or breeding. Oh, sabi ko na, alam ko bawal na ngayon yan.
When Imelda's animals arrived, there was a problem with where these new guests would go if they were to roam free, which she insisted. So they finally settled on this small island where they wouldn't run into people.
Saang isla?
It was an island that was not inhabited by...
Ano naman yan, tinatawag yung nabibreed na NFT. Pati Axie. Pupunta pa rin dito.
A group of people, or they did not have communities there, except a few that I could tell them what to do.
Okay, ano to? Remedios Radio, original Kalawit villager. Tama ba yung aking pronunciation?
Kami, bago kami paalisin dito, sinabi bago sila
no.
nila ang hayop dito. Sinabi sa amin na ang tao hindi pwedeng pagkuhanin ng hayop, kaya takot kami sa military dahil dito po sila. Malungkot kami dahil dumating na ang mga hayop na ipalit sa amin sa isla namin.
Okay, so subukan natin no? Sabi dito, in 1976, the Marcoses evicted 254 families from Calauit to make room for their safari park. Tapos, ano pa? Okay, my question is, are they compensated well? Kasi subukan natin no? 'Di ba? Balansehin nga natin eh. So kung anti-Marcos ako, syempre magagalit na ako agad. Tingnan niyo na, para lang sa mga hayop o safari ni Miss Imelda, pinatanggal nila yung mga tao. Ayun, so ganun ang argument. So, kung pro-Marcos naman ako, sabihin ko, isa lang naman yung napanood yung nagre-reklamo na yan eh. Nasa na ibang mga pamilya nagagalit. Isa lang naman to nagre-reklamo. So, possibly na, di ba? So, yun ang tanong dyan. Pero regardless to say, at least, totoo naman yung part na yan, yung may safari na ginawa si Madam Imelda, no? At ewan ko lang kung buhay pa mga hayop. Siguro tingnan natin kung anong balita sa kanila.
I was always criticized for being excessive. But
excessive?
That is mothering. That is the spirit of mothering. You cannot quantify love. And with my spirit and character of mothering, I want to mother not only the Philippines but the world.
Wow. Uy, si Bongbong, BBM.
When I was younger, my father and mother were always terribly busy. They were never home. They were always off campaigning or doing something terribly important. I really regretted the time that I was away from my parents. But this is the life the politicians have. As far as I'm concerned, the best politician that I've ever seen is my mother. Her politics are very intuitive, and natural.
So mas magaling sa paningin ni Bongbong ang nanay niya kaysa tatay niya.
I said, I think I want you to be president one day like your dad. And they were very close, especially so he was the only boy. Bongbong studied abroad since he was 9 years old. He was in London. He was at Oxford, Wharton.
Ako, yan na naman.
He was a little bit of a nerd as a kid, so he was, he wanted to do physics, maths, biology, but my grandfather was like, there's no money in that, so switched to politics.
Oh my gosh! Totoo pala yun. Kala ko meme lang. So, totoo pala sinabi nga ni Mr. Sandro, no? Si Mr. Sandro tong statement na yun. Balikan nga natin. Totoo pala yun. Ang cringe naman ng statement na yun, Sandro. Oh, sorry.
Very close, especially so he was the only boy. Bongbong studied abroad since he was 9 years old. He was in London. He was at Oxford, Wharton.
He was a little bit of a nerd as a
Yan.
kid, so he was, he wanted to do physics, maths, biology, but my grandfather was like, there's no money in that, so switched to politics.
Oh my gulay. Totoo nga, sinabi nga niya yun. Sa kay Sandro, no? Pero kung papakinggan mo nga naman yun, medyo another chill, cringe na naman. So para sasabihin na naman ng mga anti-Marcos niya na parang, tingnan nyo na, sinasabi ni Ferdinand Marcos sa anak niya na walang na mas may pera sa politika. So ayun na naman tayo, away na naman yan. Ang cringe, Sandro. Pero syempre, di naman natin alam kung gaano katotoo yung kwento na yon, no? Baka it's either totoo talaga, slip of tongue, ika nga nila, or I don't know. And I think meron din kapalpakan si Sandro, yung yung nagkamali siya sa pag-shade ng for president. Dalawa yata yung na-shade niya. So, ko.
I told him,
Nilaglag ni Sandro
you
yung lola
are
niya.
needed now.
My mother wanted me to run since I was 8 years old, so that's a given. She's the one going around and telling everyone that, oh, you must help my son like this and like that. And, Mom, we haven't decided yet. Yeah, but it's okay. Once you decide,
Senator pa siya dito.
that will be ready. So she's so political an animal, really.
There was pressure for him to run for president. His father was president when he was 47 years old.
Oh my.
Bongbong is past 50. But thinking it over, we all decided that it would be best to go vice president and then, if God willing, the presidency.
Sabi dito, baka sarcastic lang si Lolo. Pwede. Kaso, syempre, di na natin malalaman yan, no? So, malaki nga ang pressure na maging presidente si Bongbong. Galing kay Miss Imelda. Yan na, 2015. Walang pera.
Bongbong Marcos in the house. Bongbong Marcos.
Aray. Hinihila siya. Huwag nyo nahilain si Imelda. Tanda na yan.
Ang tunay na magkakaisa sa bawat Pilipino sa...
O, diba? Ganda ng Imeldas ni si Miss Cristina Romualdez, diba? So, nasa lahi talaga naman ng Romualdez ang mga may itsura.
buong bansa, ang ating pong Vice Presidente Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos!
Spoiler, di po siya nanalo. Spoiler. Smile sa ako. Ay, si Enrile.
Lumabo na ang mga pangarap ng ating mga kabataan. Nawalan ng direksyon ang ating bayan. Ano ang nangyari? Bakit tayo nalublob sa kumunoy ng kahirapan?
Estrada.
Sa tulong ninyo at ng bayan, pamumunuan ko ang isang revolusyon sa puso, isip at gawa.
Sabi, for sure naman i-edit, i-revise nila yan kung negative sa kanila yan. Yun nga problema kasi third party tong gumawa ng documentary, so wala silang magagawa, nalabas na. Pero NR sila dun Wala akong nababalitaang yung tungkol sa sinabi ni Sandro na yan. Kung yun yung sinasabi mo Sir Petty.
Tatakbo ako sa susunod na halalan bilang Vice Presidente ng Republika ng Pilipinas.
Enrile, palakpak ko. Paus-paus na siya Bongbong. Yan ang kape.
The vice presidency in the Philippines is something quite different from what it is maybe in the United States. We are voted in separately. It means that the vice president has their own mandate. Of course, a vice president's main function is to take over should the president be unable to continue. That remains. But nobody voted anyone to just wait for the president or their boss to die. We have to find ways to make yourself useful.
Which is dapat ang pandato talaga ng vice president maliban sa katulong ng presidente yan kasama yan sa kabinete. So mabibigyan siya ng which is ang problema kay Miss Lenny, medyo natiwalag siya ni President Duterte dahil nga pero para masabi nating may negative talaga, parang hindi sila talaga pwedeng magsama, lagi may kontrahan nagaganap. So kung siguro ako rin na nasa lugar ni PRD o ni Duterte, baka babay ko na rin si Miss Lenny. Lalo na kung gano'n ang relasyon yung bilang politician. Uy, uso pa yung dilaw noon, no?
It was common knowledge that Senator Bongbong was eyeing the presidency. And people close to him were saying that he opted to run for the vice presidency instead because he had better chances of winning the vice presidency instead of the presidency. But I think this will only be a stepping stone to what he really wants, and that is to be president just like his father.
The Commander-in-Chief
agree.
is authorized to adopt.
Though ako, commentary ko dun kay Miss Lenny, and I think you would also agree, guys, na si Miss Lenny, sabihin natin na sabi naman wala namang hato lang korte na sabihin natin na nandaya siya, Ang kinapanalo siguro ni Miss Lenny, for my own opinion, is yung sympathy votes dahil nga namatay si Mr. Jesse Robredo. So ganoon naman ang mga Pinas, ganoon naman talaga ang mga Pinoy, pag may nadededs, nananalong biglang presidente katulad ni Noynoy, 'di ba? Namatay si Miss Cory Aquino. So ganyan, pero naman perfect example si Jesse Robredo namatay, si Mr. Robredo naman nanalo. So ewan ko lang ngayon dahil namatay si Noynoy, di ko lang alam kung kayang iangat ni Noynoy ngayon si Lenny, kung kahit yun nga, nadeds nga siya. So kung may sympathy votes ba sa yellow. However, nag-iba na nga ng kulay, di ba? Naging pink na nga sila ngayon dahil nga sad to say, yung ginawa nilang yung Senate nila na tatakbo na 8 diretso inodoro. So napakalaki talagang ginawang sugat sa kanila kaya tinapon na nila yung yellow.
All the measures necessary to prevent the success of the enemy.
Rally pa more, ayan na.
Marcos blamed growing discontent on communist insurgents. He jailed dissidents and silenced all political opposition.
The Marcos dictatorship had been in power for years, and the people themselves were starting to get tired of it, plus the fact that the regime had become very corrupt.
The young feel so disenchanted and frustrated. They feel that there is no future for them. Prices are going up. People are lining up in the streets to buy rice. People cannot find employment. The wealthy controls the destiny of our people. This must give way to meaningful reforms.
People loved listening to Aquino, and he spoke flawlessly. And we all knew that if he would run for elections, he would easily win.
Imelda, I think, had dated him when they were young and single.
Oh,
And
talaga?
she thought that Ninoy Aquino would always be loyal to her, but he was not because he developed a real force against the Marcoses.
I think totoo naman yun. I think nabalitaan ko rin sa teacher ko yun eh. Nung high school ako na nilagawan ni Ninoy si Miss Imelda. Which is hindi naman katakata yun sa ganda ni Miss Imelda nung panahon na yan. Kaso nga lang, syempre, hindi niya hawak talaga si Ninoy.
The battle has been joined and the time has come for all Filipinos to take sides. Either you are for the cause of freedom or the curse of tyranny.
We were awakened in the middle of the night. And
buhay pa si Noy
my
Noy
father
dito.
had been arrested. From becoming the presidential aspirant to being a detainee of the Marcos regime is quite a significant leap.
Bakit nila kinukulong?
Former Senator Benigno Aquino has been jailed on charges of subversion. Aquino's supporters say he was framed because he is the president's foremost political opponent.
I was in prison for 7 years and 7 months. Every day, they brought me out to exercise. All of a sudden, I developed a chest pain. And I told my doctor, I am very, very weak. Please bring me to the Philippine Heart Center and get me an examination.
So, ang parang pinapatulog dito ni Ninoy, kahit nandun siya sa kulungan, nag-exercise naman siya, bigla daw lang daw siya nagkaroon ng na parang bigla na lang siya nagkasakit sa puso. So, parang ako ang pagkaka-imply sa akin noon, posibleng may lumalas doon sa kanya. So, yan ang kanyang ini-imply. I think.
When Ninoy Aquino was sick and he was in the hospital in the Heart Center, my project,
So talaga my project.
I can say that I was overly generous to him.
Lo and behold, the beautiful one ascended into my suite. She came, and she was really beautiful. She has not aged, and she sat down and said, "Naku, Ninoy," sabi niya, "I'm sorry to see you like that. Would you like to go to America?" Abay ka ko, sure. Oo.
After 3 years in America, my father decided to come home.
He felt that he owed it to the Filipino people. He wanted to have an audience with Marcos and try to persuade him to call for clean and orderly elections.
Ito nga yung question ko dyan, no? Diba ini-imply nila dito, ayun nga, sasabi nga ni Mr. Ninoy Aquino na parang out of the sudden, bigla siya nagkaroon sa puso, tapos generously enough, pinapunta naman siya ni Miss Imelda sa States para pagalingin yung sa kanyang sakit, at totoo naman talaga may sakit siya, at ayun nga, naayos naman siya. Ang question kasi dyan, pag may nangyari kay Ninoy, automatic naman talaga ang masisisi ang mga Marcoses. Automatic na yan eh. So would you think na sa talino ni Ferdinand Marcos at ni Miss Imelda Marcos, sila ba ang magpapatrigger na gawin yun? Na parang, pag na-deads lalo yan, si Mr. Ninoy, syempre automatic sila ang mababalingan. So, as much as possible, for sure, di mo gagawin yan. Dapat iingatan mo yan dahil pag may nangyari dyan, ikaw automatic na suspect, di ba? Yan ang dyan eh. Yan ang problema dyan eh.
The very fact alone that we can land is victory enough.
Oh
Everything
my
after
goodness,
that's
ano yun?
bonus. I mean, whether they put me back in the plane and
It's
ship me
21.
out or bring me to prison, I have promised to return. I have returned against all odds. So that's good enough for me.
President Marcos at that time, August 21, was not only sick, he was dying because there was a rejection of his kidney transplant.
President Marcos himself was supposed to have been unconscious after some transplant operation. Some quarters suggested that it was Mrs. Marcos and Fabian Ver in control at that point in time.
Wala na si Fabian Ver, no? Ano nangyari sa kanya?
So it was General Ver and Imelda Marcos who were, in a way calling the shots.
Thank you. I'll remember.
So parang nagigets ko na yung pinapatunog ni Miss ni Miss na yun, no? Na parang sila, wala si Ferd. So doon pa lang, no, magets mo na imposible, hindi naman siguro imposible, pero parang parang doubt na sila na parang si Mr. Ferdinand Marcos ang magko-call ng shot na yun dahil nga may sakit siya.
I want to kiss him.
Ay, wow. Chick boy nga, chick boy. Ayan.
you have to be very ready with your hand camera because this action can become very fast. In a matter of 3-4 minutes, it could be all over, you know. And I may not be able to talk to you again after this.
Parang ano yan di ba yung meme? Disaster, events before the disasters, parang ganon. Namuta ko na yung tawag sa meme na yun. Ayan na. Oh no. Ganda na edit. Ganda na pagkaka-edit nila.
That case remains unresolved.
At yan ang pinupunto ng mga pro-Marcoses na parang dalawa na daw na Aquino ang dumaan sa pagiging president pero hindi nila ma-resolve yung kaso na yan, no? Yung sino pumatay dun sa tatay o si Ninoy Aquino. Na talagang ano na yan, siguro sabi ko nga hanggang sa end ng mundo na lang natin malalaman yan, no? Sa Judgment Day, doon na lang tayo magkakaalaman kung anong talaga ang nangyari dyan. At para sa akin, ang opinion ko dyan, I doubt na ititrigger ni Ferdinand Marcos yan. At pati na rin siguro si Miss Imelda. I think na hindi siya ganun kabobo para i-call yung ganung shot na yun na gawin yung kay Ninoy Aquino dahil that is stupid. Dahil siya, automatic sila ang pagbibintangan. So, ang always tanong nga, di ba, ng mga investigador sa mga ganyan, sino ang magbe-benefit pag nawala ang isang taong to? Sino ang usual na magge-gain pag nawala ang taong to o ang kumpanyang to? So, yun usually napupunta yung suspect nila, di ba? So, ang tanong dyan, sino ang nag-gain nung nawala si Ninoy? So, ewan ko na lang kung sino. Di pa ako pinapanganak noong panahon na yan.
Well, it was never proven. You know, there was a hired assassin. But General Romulo, he was just heartbroken over that because it was such a miserable, nasty thing to do. Of course, he suspected that it was Imelda.
They were saying so, but why will I do that? He was no threat to me. In fact, I knew him before I knew Marcos. And some people, they say that he was courting me. And, I had nothing against him except that he talked too much. Anyway.
Si Cory and the gain. Well, sabi nga daw nila, meron pa kang chismis or di chismis, conspiracy theory, mga kungwang ko daw, ayan. So, again, it's just a conspiracy theory, di na naman natin sinasabi na sila talaga yon. Usap-usap, mga urban legend, ika nga nila.
She believed that there was a threat. She was prevailing about my father not to come home. And then you're gonna say that, I had nothing to do with it. I'm sorry, kinda absurd a concept.
It's not in my character to even quarrel with anyone, how much more kill anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And God knows, I was very kind to him.
Ang dumi naman ng salamin na yan. Ang dumi ng salamin.
The killing of the late Senator Benigno Aquino sparked the movement that really brought out the people in their numbers.
Diyan mo nakikita yung kinukwento, personal na kwento ng tatay ko yan na parang ito yung kapangyarihan ng media sa panahon na yan dahil nga syempre limited. Kumbaga parang sinasabi nga yung mga nagrarally daw noon na yan, sa kanya, sa perspective ng tatay ko, konti lang yan. Hindi alam ng ibang Pilipino na may nangyayaring ganyan. Sabi niya, kwento niya. Kaya ang paniwala niya dyan, konti lang daw yung mga yan. Sa kanyang perspective.
Under pressure from the United States, Marcos called a snap election.
Recalling once more Ninoy's words, and I quote, "I will never be able to forgive myself if I will have to live with the knowledge that I could have done something and I did not do anything. I hereby affirm my candidacy and
Parang ano nga, Miss Lenny nga lang.
President Marcos and his wife Imelda continue their hard-hitting campaign, charging that the challenger shouldn't even be running for the presidency.
I have no experience in cheating, stealing, lying, or assassinating political opponents.
So naging bala nga naman nila yun, no? Yung assassination na yun.
They couldn't be more opposite. It could be a cartoon. While Imelda, it was ostentatious and glamorous and into everything and so fashionable. And Corey, I doubt she even wore nail polish. Probably not. But very intelligent and very well educated. She really knew what she was about. She'd been through a lot.
Actually, naalala ko yung kwento ni Attorney Libayan dyan, no? Di ba sabi nga niya, yung tatay niya, pro Marcos, yung nanay naman niya, pro Cory. So, dahil doon sa kwento niyang yon, I was inspired. So, tumawag din ako sa tatay ko, tumawag din ako sa nanay ko. So, tinanong ko nung mga panahon na yan, sino binoto nila. Ganun din, yung tatay ko, Marcos, yung nanay ko daw, sabi niya, ay, Cory ako daw. Ano yan eh, malinis yan eh, ganyan eh. Parang, kumbaga, ang tingin niya no kay Miss Cory is talaga hindi makabasag pinggan. Tapos sila yung, kumbaga, ang perspective nila noon sa kanya na parang sila yung aping-api. Kaya siya yung parang nakakaramdam daw ng paghihirap daw ng mga Pilipino. Kaya sinuportahan ng pamilya ng mama ko.
At the end of the day, the popular support Mrs. Aquino inspired was translated into votes.
I am counting on a landslide to offset any cheating that Marcos
Ilaw na din.
We came here and we couldn't find our
Classic.
names. And there's about 1,000 people who are the same, you know?
There was always the possibility that Marcos would use fraud to beat Mrs. Aquino, despite assurances to the contrary.
But by and large, it will be a fair, honest, and clean election.
But it was obvious that they weren't. Television crews saw Marcos supporters transported to and from election rallies, and Marcos votes being bought in exchange for food.
The people realized that it was rigged, and even those who were tabulating the elections, young girls, stood up and in protest and got out. And so the people saw that despite the elections, Marcos would still insist that he was the winner.
I hereby proclaim Ferdinand E. Marcos as the duly elected president.
So yung naalala kong kwento ng teacher ko na talagang lahat daw sila nung panahon na yan na bad trip sila dahil talagang pandaraya noon. Which is, ito nga, ang tinetelevize nga nila, meron daw di umanong vote buying. Again, no, sabi nga natin, storya na nila yan. So, wala tayo dyan. So, hindi ko hahatulan basta-basta yan. Kasi, alam niyo naman, there's always two side ng storya dyan sa away na yan. Pero I think, syempre meron yan. Meron nangyari dyan. Pero, mahirap na lang, kumbaga, humusga ng basta-basta. Sabi dito, tatay ko anti-Marcos, nanay ko neutral lang. Haha, di naman siya apektado dati. Naku, may meme sila sa ganyan. Yung kay Sherlock Holmes, na you're not interested daw in politics because you're, parang di ka apektado sa, parang gano'n. Nalimutan ko na eh, pero may meme na ganyan. Ako, baka matag. Naman yung ating mga netizens sa ibang woke, galit na galit agad sa mga ganyang statement. So, ako, Lenny, Cory. So, merong madali lang tandaan. Militar na.
Marcos loyalists opened fire, wounding dozens and killing one.
It was so painful because Marcos just won the election over Aquino. We won by more than 1 million votes.
Ferdinand Marcos, after 20 years in power, laid defiant claim to another 6-year term.
Grabe, makita talaga yung pagkakahati ng Pilipinas, no? Panahon pa lang yan, naghahati na sila.
There is no way under which I can step down or resign from the position of president.
You know, when it finally was reduced to just the Marcos family alone in Malacanang Palace. And there were people at the gates just being held off by a security force. And that's when he finally agreed they had to leave. And Imelda wanted to leave too.
A few days before, there was a big reception that I had to wear some jewelry. Just as we were told to get into the helicopter, I saw a box of diapers for my grandchildren. So I put this jewelry in this box of diapers. Diamonds in diapers. It saves us later on to pay the lawyers that cost millions.
Ako, pag napanood to o nakita to ng mga anti-Marcos, sabihin nila, yari, ayan, no? Patunayan na na ill-gotten wealth. Meron silang ganyang kaalagang elite ng sahod ng Trigger. Makaka-trigger talaga yan. Pero syempre, kung ako rin naman ang tatanungin, sa panahon ngayon kung panahon ngayon ng pag-uusapan, questionable naman talaga kung meron kang ganong ari-arian. Questionable talaga.
It's just been confirmed that Mr. Marcos has indeed left, and there's absolute chaos outside his palace.
As it drew near midnight in Manila, the demonstrators stormed the gates of the palace to take back what they said was theirs. They looted Marcos' property. They rifled his files and defiled his portraits.
Yan, ito, isang issue ko dyan, doon sa nangyaring yan. Diba, meron tayong tinatawag na PCGG na kung saan hinahabol yung masasabi nating mga kayamanan ng mga Marcoses, pero yun yung tipo na para ibalik daw sa bayan. Pero ang tanong dito sa nangyayaring to, itong looting nga nila, meron ng ibang mga tao na nagnenok din. So, para sa akin, unfair lang na ang mga Marcoses nang habulin. Dapat habulin din itong mga sumugod na to na posibleng nagdakaw din sa kaban ng bayan. Kasi nga, sabihin na natin na sa sa bayan talaga ng yung mga kitang alahas dyan, mga damit, pag-aari ng Pilipinas yan. Bakit ninenenok ng mga to? Diba?
They raided the Marcos refrigerator. It was
yung food okay lang siguro.
Burst of long pent-up fury spent on a palace that was the very symbol of the Marcos dictatorship. Filipinos were staggered by the opulence and by Imelda's famous closet.
The designer dresses stem from Rome, where only days before fleeing, she placed her last $80,000 order.
This dress was
$1,000
embroidered with silver thread. Here we see a bulletproof bra.
She left
Bulletproof bra?
behind 3,000 pairs of shoes.
They found no skeletons but found only beautiful shoes.
Natawa kasi sinabi ni Miss Imelda, they didn't find skeletons but only shoes. Which is ang tanong dyan, baka may nagnenok din noong mga panahon na yan, no? So, yun lang. Sayang di pa uso yung CCTV noon
The long agony is over. We are finally free, and we can be truly proud of the unprecedented way we achieved our freedom.
It's not true that we flee from our country. We were kidnapped. They told us we were going to Paway, a town in Ilocos.
Sino na-kidnap?
Only to be brought to Hawaii.
And then, at least na-upgrade, di ba? Na-upgrade yung trip mo. Alam mo lang, doon ka lang sa probinsya. Gulat ka na sa ibang bansa ka. O Pearl Harbor.
And losing your country after being mother of your country for more than 20 years, then you became orphaned. It was like losing my mother again.
Of course, the United States government double-crossed Marcos because there are elements in the United States that don't like dictators. Even though the dictators are our dictators, they don't like them. When I was being considered to be ambassador to the Philippines during Ronald Reagan's time, what killed me was that I told him I was all in favor of Marcos remaining, but he's a dictator. Yes, he's a dictator. But I said, if you don't keep Marcos, I'm telling you that you're going to lose all American military bases in the Philippines. What happened? We lost them when Aquino came in.
Our hearts and hands are with President Aquino and her new government as they set out to meet the challenges ahead. Today, the Filipino people celebrate the triumph of democracy, and the world celebrates with them.
You have many friends, and suddenly when you are not in power, they don't even know you.
Actually, sa totoong buhay talagang nangyayari yan. Whether kontrabida ka man sa paningin nila o bida ka sa paningin ng kung sino man tao, basta pag pera at kapangyarihan nasa iyo yan, marami kang kaibigan. Pero once na nawala yan, traiduran na.
So far, investigators say they've uncovered strong evidence of at least $250 million worth of Marcos real estate in the United States alone. Investigators are also checking to see if American money has been stolen in the hundreds of projects financed all over the country by U.S. aid. Frivaldo says corruption was widespread in the highway program of his province, highways built with U.S. aid money.
Instead of having a 6 to 8 inches concrete, the highways, they would normally do it on 2 inches.
Was Marcos getting any of this money?
What else can you deduce?
Tell me a country that doesn't have corruption, and don't say the U.S., because we're the worst. We give money to countries, and the money is not used for the purpose it was sent for, and we know it.
Yun nga yung problema, guys, no? Sinasabi nga natin na, yun nga, yung kinukwento ng governor kanina na parang, ito yung in-order, tas ito lang yung binigay, so nanenok yung pera. So, ako, no, personally, tatanungin, kahit sino pang presidente yan, yung darating ngayon sa 2022, kahit sinong Poncio Pilato pang mananalo dyan, no? Kung yung nasa baba, sa barangay pa lang na level, ay corrupt na, good luck talaga sa paglilinis yan. Kaya kailangan yung transparency tinatawag na. Pag napansin mo, yung politician na yan, motor lang dati sinasakyan, tapos bigla naging kotse, hindi naman natin sa pero matuto tayong questionin yan. Paano niya nakuha yan? Bakit biglang umunlad ang negosyo niya? Paano yon? So, kailangan talaga natin ng clean and transparent na information sa mga pumapasok sa pera ng mga politician. Ito yung sinasabi na pod ko Idol Rafi na parang isusulong niya Di umano na, kaya ilalabas niya lagi sa YouTube channel niya yung mga may kitang daw. For example, magkano ang kita niya, magkano yung napapasok sa kanya, papalabas daw niya yon. Di umano. Ewan ko lang kung walang problema sa batas yun, pero yun ang kanyang pangako sa mga netizens na sana, hindi lang sa kanya, no? Sana sa lahat ganon. Kung kahit ka lang, kagawad ka lang, o kung ano man ang posisyon mo, dapat may transparency nagaganap.
They bought buildings in New York, put them in Imelda's name, or they pull them in some front man's name.
Actually, Pet D, kahit federalism pa yan, kahit sabihin natin federalism, hanggat sa small area pa lang natin, meron ng corrupt. Kaya ang ko talaga diyan para ang pinaka-safe na mangyari talaga reformat yung ma-reformat yung mga Pilipino, no? Kasi kinalakyan na nila yung corruption Parang sa kanila normal na lang gano'n na ito pala yung ginagawa. So parang nagiging normal. So mabigat din talaga ang obligasyon ng mga teacher natin na dapat yung yung tawag doon, yung manners is ituro maaga pa lang. Simpleng traffic rules nga, di masunod ang mga Pilipino, di ba? So, paano pa pag mas malaking scale ng, yung usaping corruption pa, talagang, sana na lang, umunlad pa mga Pinoy.
First, she had a beautiful home in Beverly Hills, and she put it in George Hamilton's name. And when the Marcos regime fell, George sold it, kept the money. So you see, everybody's corrupt.
So, ulitin ko lang sinabi tong Amerikano, na merong binili si Miss Imelda na ipinangalan, di umano doon sa isang taong to, nakabot ko na yung pangalan, basta yon. Tapos itong taong to, binenta naman niya, bumagsak na yung bumagsak na yung Rehimen Marcos. So, kaya natatawa tong Amerikano na to.
They even filed a case against me, the United States government against Imelda Marcos. This is only one case. 350,000 documents. I have a house full of documents. Can you open the...
Yes, ma'am. Open na po. Pati aircon po.
Ay, may aircon din yung
Here,
stock room.
I placed the documents from New York. This is only one...
Hala, bakit nabura yung message mo, Pet D? Na-consider the spam. Grabe naman tong Streamlabs na to. Later ayusin ko yan Mata-delete.
One case against Mrs. Marcos in the trial of the century.
Kumaayos.
And you will see here what we supposedly stolen. Banks, the buildings, had a stolen golden Buddha, which was ridiculous. I did not steal.
Uy, Lucio Tan, Grabe, daming kaso.
Ferdinand Marcos, the former president, died Thursday in Hawaii.
My husband was dead. I did not know where to live.
Imelda Marcos is wearing black for her racketeering trial.
You're facing the mightiest sword of justice of the world. And you're alone, widowed, and homeless, and countryless, and penniless.
Wait, ayusin ko lang tong chat sorry. Naiirita ako doon sa nakikita kong deleted. Pero doon sa yung sa racketeering na yan, may kita mo naman talaga na kahit papaano yung USA, talagang talagang nagbaliktaran na sila. Hindi siya pwedeng i-reinstate yung comment. Umaayos. Sorry, hindi ko maayos. Naka-live kasi tayo. Sorry.
The jail would have been a welcome thing. It would be free board and lodging. Anyway, on my birthday, July 2nd, 1990, not guilty in all counts.
Not guilty, guys.
Even though Imelda Marcos was a world-class spender, that was
sa US yan nililinaw ko lang, sa US yun, yung pinakita ni Miss Imelda Marcos.
not a crime. That however Ferdinand Marcos made the money was his business, not hers.
I want it because of the truth.
Okay. Alam ko marami nag-aaway dito sa part na to, no? At nababasa ko sa comment section ko doon sa page ko sa Facebook na parang kung may ninakaw daw ang mga Marcoses, bakit walang nakukulong? Ang una sagot dyan, kasi po, patay na po si Mr. Ferdinand Marcos. So, yun ang pinakamalaking dyan, breaker dun sa usapin na bakit daw walang nakukulong na Marcos. Pangalawa, si Miss Imelda, as she said nga, sa US, yung kanyang mga kaso, yung mga racketeering, ay na-save naman niya. In fairness, magaling yung abogado. It's either magaling ang abogado o yung abogado niya o bopols yung prosecutor na humahabol sa kanya at kulang ebidensya nila. So, ganun lang naman yon. Sa Pilipinas, as sabi nga ni Atty. Libayan, ongoing pa ang cases niyan. So, hanggat wala pang final verdict, kasi meron na tayong nababasa na ito ang hatol ng Sandigang Bayan. Kaso, hanggat may apela pa, hindi pa pwedeng ipasa yung yung utos na yun ng Sandigan Bayan. Kasi nga, pag-aaralan na naman ulit. So, ganun ka-delay ang nangyayaring justice sa mga Marcoses, no? Kung injustice o justice, I don't know. Kayo nang baka ka-isip ko nung sagot nyo doon.
In spite of all that, Cory says she cannot come back home.
There was an undercurrent of this. How do we get home? We all basically escaped, the kids, from the States. We weren't allowed to leave, but we left anyway. I remember very well buying the ticket, and I said,
So, sila pinapauwi ni
coach.
Cory?
You know, I said, called my friend. I said, I don't have any money to buy a first class ticket. Buy me a first class ticket. I can't come home. I must be in first class. I mean, it's just too embarrassing.
Her son Bong Bong staged his own triumphant return last week.
And while I was still at the airport, I immediately phoned my mother, who scolded me. I said, what are you doing there? I'll never forget what I said. Mom, come home. It's fine. It's safe. We're going to be all right. And a couple of weeks later, she was home.
It was God's plan to make me born in the Philippines.
In fairness, maganda si ate.
Nobody can stop me.
Sabi dito, melet. Wala sila ninakaw, period. Diba? Again, no, may hintayin natin ng korte dyan. Hanggat wala pang verdict, syempre, wala tayong masasabi pa dyan. Though, sabi nga sa PCGG, ay meron na silang mga nakuwang mga mga ari-arian na napunta na daw ngayon sa gobyerno ng Pilipinas.
And supporters, Imelda Marcos pressed through nearly hysterical crowds toward the suburban Manila courthouse, ready to face corruption charges that could put her in prison for more than 100 years.
Korte.
The former First Lady surrendered to authorities in order to be granted immediate bail. One of her lawyers brought the bail money in cash, rolled up in a Mr. Donut napkin. A woman who had traveled in the world's most powerful circles for more than 2 decades was fingerprinted and released, awaiting her day in court on more than 70 civil and criminal charges.
The Marcoses, during their tenure in power, plundered a lot of the nation.
So si Andy Bautista, na panahon, di ba sa ano to, Comelec to noon? So siya rin pala in charge sa PCGG. So again, no, sa mga hindi nakakalam ng PCGG, yan po yung kumukuha o nag-iimbestiga doon sa ill-gotten wealth ng mga Marcoses, na sila yung magdedemanda, sila yung kumbaga mag-iimbestiga at kailangan bawiin ang mga nakaw na yaman daw ng mga Marcoses.
Wealth, $5 to $10 billion in 1986. They felt that Philippine government funds belonged to them because they were the leaders of the country at that time.
When I first arrived back home, being a Marcos was an issue, was a political issue.
It really did hurt us a lot, especially in media-wise, because the problem with the media is the gun can kill you only up to the grave, but the media can kill you beyond the grave and to infinity.
While we are allowing...
Na until ngayon, totoo yan, naniniwala ko dyan, na ang media, sa sobrang kapangyarihan niya, mas makapangyarihan pa sa baril. I agree doon sa sinabi ni Miss Imelda dyan na pag may sinabi na sa'yo ang media at talagang, lalo kung patay ka na, wala ka ng depensa sa sarili mo. Kaya ako, as much as possible, pag patay na talaga isang tao, ay wag na nating masyadong lait-laitin pa dahil wala na hindi na natin patay na, hindi na natin mahahabol yun
The return of Imelda Marcos.
Gawa-gawa yan ng LP, komunista at oligarchy. Si Andy, tauhan ng Aquino yan. Kaya panalo si FBP. Fake BP ba ibig sabihin doon? Well, yun ang mga conspiracies. Sinasabi nga nila.
The ban on the return...
Bakit ko sinabing conspiracy? Kasi nga, syempre, kailangan patunayan sa korte yung mga ganyang aligasyon.
Of the remains of Ferdinand
Marcos
yung
original
will
nyo.
Continue.
We announced that we were bringing him back and they wouldn't let us land in Manila. So we landed him in Ilocos Norte.
Cory Aquino disallowed Marcos to be buried. The Aquinos have been very unjust, inhuman to the Marcoses.
Yun lang yung problem ko rin dyan na ako, para sa akin, weird lang yung part na dahil patay na nga, siguro kahit sino pang Poncio Pilato yan, dahil kung saan man siya pinanganak, iuwi nyo pa rin. Huwag nyo pigilan na ilibing ko sa nila gusto sana mailibing. Yun na naman ang stand ko dyan.
Not only to the living, but also to the dead.
Some people want to say that's just a fight between us and the Marcoses. No. The fight is there has to be something that is right and there is something that is wrong.
So you mean to say, Mr. Noynoy, kayo ang right at ang Marcoses ang wrong? Ang komentary ko dyan, mahirap na magsalita. Hindi natin alam kung sino talaga ang mga kontrabida, sino ang hindi, sino ang mga nakinabang, sino ang hindi. So, mahirap sabihin niya na point, black at saka white. Mahirap sabihin niya na ganyan. Hindi ako naniniwala na, merong ibang mga entity dyan na for sure nakinabang sa mga panahon na yan. At di na lang natin masabi kung sino-sino yung mga yan.
No less than the son of Cory is president now. Between the mother and the son, you cannot tell who is worse.
One of my mother's first actions was to create the Presidential Commission on Good Government, which I understand is being seen as a model for other countries trying to recover the ill-gotten wealth by their own despots.
The commission was created in 1986 to track down and repatriate plundered wealth. So far, we've been able to remit back $4 billion. But nice. I also hasten to add that many of these assets also have really appreciated in terms of value.
Oh, they sequestered everything.
Ayun.
All the jewelry that they would find all the valuables that they would encounter, all the beautiful things.
Alisin na lang natin ito, ma'am. Thank you.
Wow, ano to? Tunay na ginto?
Alisin pa talaga yan.
My question is, no, sa mga pro-Marcoses dyan, dahil ako, wala namang idea kung ano, no. Saan nila nakuha yung pera nila? Anong business nila? Doon lang, palaisipan din sa akin. Sabihin na natin, sabihin natin, sumasahod sila ng ganito, pero, para sa akin lang naman, no, sapat ba yun para makabili ng mga ganitong extravagant na, no? Let us be fair lang, no? Subukan din natin tanongin na, saan nila nakuha yung pera pambili sa mga ganitong gamit? Kaya, hindi na natin masisi ibang kababayan natin na magsabi, yun nga, na merong ill-gotten wealth dahil nga, paano ma-acquire ng ganyang mga ari-arian. Di naman ganun kataas ang sahod ng presidente. Yun lang naman.
The PCGG just would confiscate anything they wanted to get that they felt was stolen. Even this house.
Pero, dapat din patunayan din ng PCGG na ill-gotten wealth or yung gamit na yan, mula din sa ill-gotten wealth. So, kaya nga, siguro naiintindihan din natin kung bakit matagal ang laban sa korte, no? Dahil, kailangan patunayan ng Siyempre, kung sino nag-aakusa, silang kailangan may katibayan na nagnenok si ganito, si ganire, di ba?
A few months ago, was being auctioned off. We cannot stay really here because we do not know when we will be kicked out.
Sapatos pa rin.
Look, I am no longer First Lady. I'm not even allowed to go around the world anymore.
Talaga? Ako kasi may kaso.
Prohibit me. Everything, I cannot even have, I have money in 170 banks and deposits of assets. I cannot even have them.
Naka-hold?
And even at this stage, even at my age, I can go around the world and bring world peace. I befriended all of them. Gaddafi was a friend. Saddam Hussein, Mr. Mao Zedong.
Parang yung lahat ng mga yung kalaban.
To him, he took my hand and kissed it. In 5 minutes, he said, Mrs. Marcos, you started the end of the Cold War. In 5 minutes, Mao. So, and who is Imelda?
Sabi dito, yun nga sabi ni Marcos lawyer daw siya. Simula na naging politiko siya, hindi naman ata siya nakapag-practice ewan. Yeah, valid point. Yun nga, isa rin sa mga questions na siguro, di ko alam kung sino na lang makakasagot, no? Pero, sabi nga ni Atty. Libayan, critical thinking. Isipin natin kung no? Pero hindi naman in relation sa botohan to pinag-uusapan natin. Kumbaga, sa documentary lang naman.
I don't have an answer for why
activists
we allow Imelda to even open her mouth. I'd be okay for them to return. That's the Filipino in me. It's not okay for them to flaunt what they stole.
When I came back from abroad, in spite of all
the issue is still Aquino's murder.
Bad publicity. The people never stop saying, run for office, run for office. You know how to take care of people. You know how to love. The first time I ran for Congress, I won.
That is something that surprises Americans. And all I can think of, the Filipinos are very forgiving people. Nobody said you can't do it. She came back.
Pati daw Amerikano nagulat. Kasi nga naman, nanalo nga naman si Miss Imelda noong mga panahon na yun. Ano yung pera? Candy. Candy. Fiesta pala to eh. Wow, celebration talaga. Ano ba, birthday?
Sino gusto ng sapatos, kumain ng sapatos? Would you want to taste of my shoes?
Ay, si ate. Itsura. Cute naman ng mga
I
ano.
was only 8 years old when I became orphaned. And when you lose your money, your mother, you lose everything.
You still have plans of running, or are you going to anoint any of your children
Wow, anoint.
to do the Marcos work for you?
Well, I go on and on about Bongbong, and he is my only son.
So we will be seeing another Marcos in Malacanang.
Being president is destiny.
Totoo naman yan, yung pagiging presidente, it's talagang kahit anong gawin mo dyan, eh, kung anong kalooban ng Diyos, yun ang mangyayari talaga.
Nakatikim tayo ng konti. Ikaw pa yan, ang Presidente Marcos. Na aaga ang anak ni Marcos. Aani ako, nakakampanya. Bisan ako teenager pala, 86.
Malakas pa.
Aani ako, anak. Hinirealitik ang akong pag-first lady.
Ano salita yan?
Ang asawa ko ni Marcos, siling buhay, utang ni bago sa usahon ang lady sa
Ay, sa Manica Bridge.
maupay na na. Ganda-dakop ko ni Marcos na naging asawa ko.
The San Juanico Bridge is that beautiful bridge. That is called the Bridge of Love.
Bridge
as a
of
gift of President Marcos to his beautiful wife,
Wow.
Imelda.
My projects, I did not make them only good and right. It had to be beautiful. And beauty is really the extravagance of love.
Uy, bumalik tayo sa isla kung saan yung may mga yung mga zebra na kinuha ni Miss Imelda Marcos. Kala ko, binababalikan to eh.
Marcos, tinirnigi in welcoming nga tao.
He chose the animals not us.
Pasalamat kami rin lamang kay Presidente Kuri nga impatarsik na si Presidente Marcos.
Ako, di napabayaan.
I think then it started to fall to pieces. As often happens with a change in government, and all the people poured back onto the island, and nobody tried to stop them. They couldn't.
Pinabayaan. So, paano na yung mga hayop na to? Buhay pa naman yata sila.
Mahirap
Zebra.
pabagayan.
Giraffe.
Saka mahirap ang pagkilos namin dahil sa hayop.
Teka lang. So, after nila maibik, bumalik din sila ulit. Eh, paano yun? May hayop. Parang lumiit na yung mga zebra, no?
Experience yung iba, galit dahil yung iba minsan walang matirang pananim nila. Yan ang mga bakod
Zebra
na
destroyed this
ginawa
fence.
namin, hinira ng zebra.
Talaga sisirain nila
So
yun.
you cannot say to a giraffe, don't wander in there, that's somebody's garden. The locals see them, they get upset because that's their livelihood, so they shoot them or kill them.
Matagal na namin wish na maalis ang hayop dito.
Okay, commentary natin dyan. Wala namang kasalanan yung mga hayop na yan, syempre. Yung tao yung naggalaw sa kanila dyan, no? Pero yun ang problem talaga sa sinasabi nating revenge politics na ito, yung project na to, hinayaan na lang dahil nga proyekto to ni Miss Imelda Marcos, dahil nga kalaban, hindi na, kumbaga pinabayaan na. Wala na halos nagbantay. Nakabalik na ulit yung mga tao doon sa isla. So, hindi natin alam kung binigyan ng compensation yung mga taga-isla bago sila pinalabas doon sa isla. Hindi na lang natin alam yon, pero yun na nga lang, bumalik sila ulit para doon. Ngayon, conflict yan. Siyempre, wild animal versus tao. So, talagang, ewan ko, ano na kaya nangyari?
The Marcos regime didn't bring any documents saying how to handle these animals. Unlike if you buy a
Walang tutorial.
television, there is a manual how to operate.
Ayun, mali naman ang mga yun. Yung nagdala dyan yun.
For anything to grow, even animals, they need love. That's why you need a mother in the government, because a mother makes everything whole.
Teka lang, parang speech doon ni Miss Lenny, di ba? Ako ang inyong ina. So, di ba? Parang parehong-pareho lang ng galawan, So, sabi ni Miss Imelda, siya ang nanay. Sino rin nagsabi ngayon yan? Si Miss Lenny. So, pareho sila ng script na ginagamit. Okay? How ironic. Hindi naman ako kontra, pero how ironic lang.
This project started with big money.
Lumit na yung mga sibro.
Little by little, budget became nil.
Kumonti na yung budget at wala na.
No veterinarian here.
May sugat yung
The name of this giraffe is Athena. She is screwworm fly. Then the maggots screwing the flesh. We have no medicine that could easily kill this larva or maggots.
Oh no.
The mystery is to me that Kalawit has lasted so long, 37 years, and it's still surviving today.
When I came back after our exile, I went back to Kalawit to see how it was. And I was really so depressed and shocked to see what had happened. There was hardly anything left.
I've been here for almost 40 years. Nung bumalik si Mrs. Marcos sa Pilipinas, hindi siya nakabalik dito sa Kalawit Island.
So sino paniniwala natin sa dalawa? Yung caretaker o yung bumili? Hindi niya na binalikan. Well, kung critical thinking, sabi nga, kung magsaside ako kay na Marcos, ang pwede kong ipalusot dyan, kailangan ba by land? Pwede bang chopper naman, di ba? So, yun ang pwede kong ipalusot doon. Siyempre, kung anti-Marcos naman ako, sabihin nila, hindi na pinuntahan yan. Wala na silang pakialam dyan. So, gano'n lang yan.
They need qualified people there to stop inbreeding. And the present group have come from a very small gene pool. There's been no effort made to separate father from mating with daughter. The son grows up and breeds with his mother. An animal doesn't know the difference. The inbreeding's already happened, it's there, the damage has been done.
Ito, tanging
I've heard
ina.
some of the giraffe have got
Yung
shortened necks.
kay Ay galing.
That's
O nga
the
naman, kay
physical one
Ay
you
nga
see,
naman
but
yun.
The ones that do the harm is the problems you cannot see. It's probably too late.
Kamusta na kaya ngayon yung islang yan? Ilocos Norte. Wow. Si Jinggoy ba yun? Kasama na pa si Jinggoy?
Really nostalgic today. Today, when we remember my dad, who is clearly with us with his breezy weather. Once again, we come to you to ask for your support, your affection, and your continued loyalty that my family has enjoyed through all these decades. All the municipalities are joining hands to support Bongbong for Vice President 2016.
Plot twist. Hindi siya nanalo. Spoiler alert.
Thank you so much for that very spirited speech, Manang Gov.
Thank you.
Manang.
I would like to greet, of course, our congresswoman from the 2nd District, my mother, Congresswoman Imelda.
I wonder kung ano na ipapasa batas ni Miss Imelda Marcos. Parang magandang i-google yan minsan.
We who have enjoyed a time when the Philippines was seen as a bright light in the community of nations, when we ourselves were proud
Bata
to
pa
be
sila.
Filipinos, we enjoyed that time. Unfortunately, that time has passed. It's time to return to that moment in time.
Yan na, palakpakan. Congressman. Ano na ngayon si Miss Imelda? Ano ang posisyon niya? Comment down below kung ano ang posisyon niya ngayon.
So far, Bongbong seems to be saying the right things.
Yes.
What do you think?
Well, that's very important. Getting the right message across.
What is your thinking?
Galing naman ng documentary to. Pati yan, nakukuha nilang usapan.
As for his chances.
We have to see. We have to see. Time will only tell.
Galing.
Okay, Mom. Wish me luck.
Wish me luck. Si OC na ba to?
Campaigns, in fact, are fun. Except for the
Sa mga manonood dito in the future, no? Kung di man to mabablock ng YouTube, no? I-comment nyo kung nanalo ba siya sa pagiging presidente o hindi, ha? I-spoiler nyo kami.
candidate. Dealing with the public is a chore. The candidate's stressed out all the way. I'm often asked by members of the media, is it an advantage or a disadvantage to be born a Marcos in this day and age in politics? First of all, my name is Ferdinand Marcos. I mean, how are you going to separate? And I'm his son. There's no getting away from that. So, no, I have no reason or desire to separate myself. What it is, it is.
Totoo nga naman. Yung kasi yung problema, ibang problema sa ibang mga woke, no? Na pag Marcos ka, automatic, wala kang karapatan na magsalita, wala kang karapatan, tigil mo na yan. Para sa akin, syempre, lahat ng tao may karapatan niya, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, or whatsoever. Wala tayong karapatan na itigil kung ano, except kung may ginawa silang illegal, syempre, ibang usapan naman yun. Pero sa usaping parang ang weird lang para sa akin na yung mga nagsasabing diktador, yung iba, nagsasabing ganyan sila, ganyan pamilya, pero sila rin, yung mga nagsasabi na itigil yan, ganyan din. Parang sila rin nagdidiktor. So, parang lang, irony, ika nga. Pero di naman lahat ng tao ganyan, no? Yung mga ilang woke lang naman yung napapansin kung ganyan, kumbaga makitungo sa mga Marcoses. Parang kumbaga demonyo na sila sa kanila, no?
It's difficult and it's also scary in the sense that if these people are brought to power again, there is a very big chance that the sins of the past will be committed.
Isoli mo, ninakaw nyo. Which hanggang ngayon ay ito pa rin ang ginagamit nilang slogan. Fast forward to the future, ngayon 2021, na hanggang sa 2022 for sure, maririnig pa natin yan.
Again in the future.
Siguro yung martial law, hindi na usapin ngayon ang martial law dahil una, nasa batas yan at pangalawa, dahil pandemic tayo ngayon, I don't think it's irrelevant sa darating na eleksyon. Siyempre, dito, ewan ko bakit martial law pa rin ang pinag-uusapan. In rhyme,
21st of this month, I signed Proclamation number 1081, placing
Classic.
the entire Philippines under martial law.
Tapos meron din ako nababasa mga comments, kung total pinag-usapan na yung martial law, na yung mga taga Mindanao, Visayas, lalo na yung mga Mindanao, sila yung nabigyan ng martial law, pero daw yung mga taga Luzon ang umaaray. Which is irony nga naman talaga, para sa akin din naman, na dapat ang umaaray sa ganyan, mga taga Mindanao. So, bakit ang mga taga Mindanao, chill lang naman sila. So, napakaisa rin yan, palaisipan din sa akin.
The situation in the Philippines is obscured by rigid news censorship imposed when President Marcos put the country under martial law last Friday. 14 of Manila's 15 newspapers have been closed. Marcos has said he is trying to save his country from communism.
Ferdinand Marcos mobilized the military and the police in order to perpetuate himself in power.
Na, rally-rally, gulo-gulo.
Martial law, that was the best years of Marcos because that was when he was able to give the Philippines sovereignty, freedom, justice, human rights.
Wala na, 2019 natapos term niya.
When martial law was declared, a lot of journalists who were critical of the government had been arrested. But since I eluded the arresting unit, I went underground.
Ngayon, sa panahon natin ngayon, magkakaroon ka na ng Nobel Peace Award. Tama ba? So, magkakaroon ka na ng Nobel Award. Sa panahon natin ngayon, na si, sa Rappler, di ba? Siya nanalo ngayon sa mga ganyan.
I was going to a secret house. When the door was opened,
Sabi dito, hindi na mangyayari yung martial law na katulad dati. Ngayon, mag-live ka lang sa social media, huli na yung mga abuso. Yeah, that is so true. Lalo na kung in act of crime, tapos binidyohan mo, tapos nilabas mo, pag act of crime, okay lang. Pero kung hindi naman act of crime, chinichismis mo lang or what, illegal yun. Delikado tayo doon. Sabi dito, kaya may martial law dahil kay Joma at Aquino, ang mga NPA komunista gustong maging komunista ang bansa. Ayun, syempre yan nga yung umiikot na usap-usapin ng mga panahon na yan, no? And as per my tatay, sabi nga niya, sa Mindanao daw noon magulo. So, nakatulong daw sa kanila yung martial law. Pero sa yan? Sa baka bukas nating content yan, no? Yung usapang martial law. Anyway, let's continue. Balik na tayo.
strange men were there, and they pulled me in. They made me sit and tied my hands, blindfolded me, and started hours of questioning.
Ano yung
I was
tanong?
a teacher. One thing led to another. I got involved. To meet as 5 people was enough to arrest you and detain you and accuse you of subversion.
Bata pa si Miss Rogales.
We were taken to an open-air barracks for the enlisted men. They'd hit me in the chest. They made me squat, and while I was squatting, they'd hit my shins with a bamboo handle.
The electric shots, they were really painful. 'Cause
Torture.
They, increased the voltage every time you lied to them.
They made me...
Ito ang question naman natin dyan, no, na hopefully sa comment section. Palaisipan din kasi sa akin to, no? Sa mga ganitong sitwasyon na ang mga military men, yung mga katulad yan, mga inabuso na mga yan, is it automatic ba na kasalanan ng chief of staff o ng presidente pag yung mga gumagawa ng mga ganito ay yung mga nasa below? Pwede sabihin na utos, kung mapapatunayan, syempre, na inutos talaga ng presidente na gawin yan, syempre, kailangang sabihin natin kasuhan yung mga ganyan. Pero, kung sariling kaisipan lang ng mga nasa lower ranks na gawin yan at mag-abuse, syempre, iba na naman usapin yun, di ba? So, para sa akin kasi kailangan nating malaman in detail. Syempre, kung sino yung abuso, automatic, kailangan talagang parusahan yan. Pero, is it automatic ba na pag nag-abuse yung militar sa ilalim ng mga lower ranks, automatic ba presidente na ang dapat natin sisihin doon? So, yan ang mga dapat natin sigurong pag-isipang sa mga ganitong sitwasyon.
Do what they call the San Juanico Bridge. They made me lie down between 2 beds with my head on one bed and my feet on the other, and my body hanging in the air. I would fall from
Pina-jump
gravity,
nila?
and then they would get me to go up again, to lie down on air again, to do the San Juanico again.
So, ginawa nilang torture area yung San Juanico Bridge? Ano ba naman yan?
Isn't it cynical? The bridge of love for one set of people becomes a method of torture for another set of people, the so-called enemies of the state.
Ang tanong, sino nakakaalam yan? Sino nakakaalam ng mga head niyan? Sina Enrile ba? Si General Ver? O si Fidel Ramos? Diba? So, again, sinasabi ko nga dito sa inyo, na hindi ako naniniwalang Marcoses lang ang nakinabang o nag-abuso. Meron for sure dyan, somewhere down the road, may mga umabuso rin dyan na hindi alam ng mga Marcoses. Kaya ako, ang paniwala ko na dapat hindi tayo sumisentro lang yung galit ng mga Pinoy, no? Yung ilang galit, siguro, iba, di galit, yung iba naman galit, no? Isentro lang natin, hindi sa mga Marcoses lang. Kailangan din natin alamin yung mga circle ng mga yan, kung sino yung katulad yan, yung mga aktivista na yan, sino yung nanakit sa kanila. Siyempre, kahit aktivista ang mga yan, kung hindi naman napatunayan na may kasalanan sila, at kahit may kasalanan sila, hindi naman tama na i-torturein mo yung isang tao. Mali naman yun. At kailangan managot. Kung sana, hindi ko alam kung sino nakakaalam pa dyan, no? Ano na lang, siguro Diyos na lang nakakaalam kung sino gumawa sa kanila ng ganyang kasamang mga bagay.
I was really scared that they were going to rape me. They made me lie down.
Ako.
So they started to take the panties out. I don't know who, because I was blindfolded. I only knew that both my arms and my legs were being held down. And someone started running his hands all over my body.
Mm-hmm.
Then some finger went in. And they said, you probably have small letters hidden inside.
Letters?
By then, I wasn't fighting. I was numb. I was ready for it.
So, kaya nila pinasok yung daliri nila dahil baka daw may letter. Though posible yun, kasi alam ko may gumagawa talaga ng ganon. Kaso, sabi nga natin, gray area, no? Di natin alam kung ano, ano. Sabi nga dito, naku, delete na naman. Ano ba to? Basahin ko na lang. Sabi ni Pet D, yan yung masama sa martial law dati. May mga pang-aabuso. Pero for sure naman, hindi yan utos ng presidente. Kung may social media na dati, lagot yung mga nang-aabuso. O, dagdagan ko. Wala pang tulpo noon. Kung may tulpo ngayon, kung may tulpo sa panahon nila, na ano na yan? Ano? Ipasikat mo yung palabas ni tulpo. O kaya naman isa, ipabitag mo, diba? So, baka ganun na yung ano. Sorry Pet D. So, siguro sa susunod na stream, aayusin ko tong Streamlabs ko. Napaka, ano pala niya? Napaka-diktador niya.
I was burned with wax candle. I was molested, sexually molested by agents of the state.
Yan. Sino yung mga agent of the state na gumawa niyan? Yan ang dapat nating habulin. Pero, siyempre, di natin siya, dahil nga nakapikit nga naman siya, nakapirig yung mata niya, mali nga naman niya kung sino-sino yung mga yon.
So the fingers were getting out and out and in. And then there was a radio call. The radio call said, bring the girl in. No hands were holding me anymore, but I couldn't get up. It wasn't from the beating, it was from the disillusionment that people as in persons can actually do these things to another.
Yes, that is so true.
And some
Unfair
of
talaga
those
yan.
who tortured me were actually students of mine.
Sorry naman, Pet D. Nawawala freedom of speech ko dito. Masyado maat si Streamlabs ko. Diktator siya. May martial law siya.
Who were planted in the schools to spy on us.
My brother, and when I was in prison, he decided that he would join the
Ibaksak.
resistance. At some point, the the commander of the unit that caught them decided, let's not bring them to the camp anymore.
Nagsawa na.
Kill them.
Oh no, papatayin na siya.
He was 27 at the time. They were not officially executed. That's just it. That's why it's called
EGK.
extrajudicial executions, extrajudicial killings. There's the rain.
Wow, sabay pa ulan ha. Ganda naman ang tiyempo nun.
My body was traumatized. I had no control over the tremors. The agents, they came to me and they said, "Ma'am, can we continue with the history classes?"
Parang wala lang nangyari.
So what did I do? I taught them. I helped them. helped me recover. Because to them, in Filipino they'd say, walang personalan, trabaho lang yan. Nothing personal. This is just work.
I felt proud about myself. I stood up to them. You did not give away any other. It's sort of like
Tulfo versus Marcos.
washed away the pain because I bought their safety.
Okay. Gusto ko lang i-comment siguro doon sa mga syempre, we feel them na unfair naman talaga sa kanila yon. Regardless sa sabihin nating may ginawa silang krimen or what, hindi pa rin justified yun na saktan mo ang isang kapwa-tao natin. Unfair talaga yon yung nangyari sa kanila. But the question remains still kung si Marcos ba nag-utos nun or may nang-abuso sa mga militar. Ganon din kay Duterte. Yung bang war on drugs niya ay meron bang sa hanay na yon ay baka naman may alam mo naman yung mga pag-usaping mga addict tsaka mga usaping drugs. Merong merong mga kumbaga tauhan yan sa mga pulis, sa mga politicians. So mahirap i-judge basta-basta isang tao dahil lang utos kunwari ng presidente ganyan. Paano kung meron palang among us doon, 'di ba? Merong isang traitor o isang doon. Alam niyo, may impostor 'yon. Very good. May bumulong sa akin dito. Yung nga, may impostor na nagpapagulo. Imagine niyo sa panahon ni Duterte, nangyayari yung mga ganon. Siguro hindi rin nakakapagtaka kung yung mga nangyayari kay Duterte, posible rin nangyayari sa mga Marcoses. Posible rin naman na siraulo sila na talagang ginawa nila yung mga abuses na yan in plain sight. So, we cannot judge. Mahirap ng katulan. Ang sabi ko nga sa mga kakilala ko, baka sa judgment day na lang natin malalaman talaga yung mga totoong nangyari, no? Na minsan mahirap na lang magsalita na ang akala mong kontrabida sila biktima rin lang para sila ng isa pang mga impostors, 'di ba? So, yun yung nakakatakot diyan Sabi dito, command responsibility at the end of the day, Marcos ang commander-in-chief. Yes, I do agree. But the question is, siyempre, ang tanong ko nga diyan, yung bang mga gumawa nun, paano kung di naman nila nire-report yun sa president? 'Di ba? May mga ganong instances Pero syempre, may punto ka rin naman na lahat ng mga, parang yung SAP 44, di ba, yung nangyari sa kanila. Kaya sinisisi si Noynoy doon. Ay, tama ba? Si Noynoy dahil nga commander-in-chief siya. So, yes, may punto ka doon. Isa naman, the biggest question right now that no one is asking, how can consensus be reached between pro and anti-Marcos martial law? Yan. Hindi na rin natin alam kung paano maano yan, no? Dapat talaga linisin din ang militar, lalo na mga pulis. Again, ang sinasabi ko nga dito, ang susi dyan, yung mga teacher natin. Sadly, no, may iba sa mga teacher natin, mas inuuna nila yung bias nila. Ako, I see it or I saw it in front of my eyes kung paano ang ibang teachers ay napaka-bias nila. Sabihin na to, ganyan si ganyan. May mga ganong teacher. Meron namang ibang teachers, kaso di ko alam kung ilan na lang sila, no, na binibigay nila yung mga information sa bata and hinahayaan nila yung mga estudyante na kung sino mag-decide ng ano ang paniniwalaan nilang truth based dun sa mga information na ibibigay ng teacher. Sadly nga lang, konti lang na yung mga teachers na ganyan. Sana dumami pa yung mga ganun na teachers kasi marami sa mga teachers ngayon, karamihan halos yung biases nila, ipinapasa nila at masakit pa, hindi lang biases yung hate nila sa certain individual na papasa nila sa mga bata. So it's a cycle na yung nangyayari sa Pilipinas ngayon na I hate Aquinos, I hate martial law, I hate Marcos. So umiikot lang siya. So dapat ituro yung tanggalin yung hate. Dapat yung history lang yung pag-usapan, di ba? Anyway, let's continue. Meron pa tayo ilang minutes, 30 minutes. 8 years Marcos dissolved Congress and seized control of the courts dahil mandato ng batasyon. 70k people were incarcerated, 35k people tortured, 3.2
Senator
killed.
Bongbong Marcos, your opening statement, please, sir.
First of all, thank you for this chance to speak to the issues of the day.
I don't get it. Bakit kailangan ipukol kay Bongbong yung martial law? Hindi naman kailangan ng martial law. Yun lang ang stand ko dyan, no? Ang i-issue nyo kay Marcos, kung ako lang kung talagang antay ako kay BBM, ang ipupukol ko ill-gotten wealth. Saan nyo nakukuha yung pera? Yan, isoli nyo. Siguro, kung ako yung hindi yung martial law, hindi ko na pag-uusapan siguro yan. Sorry, Sync, J-Sync, na nadidelete. Na siya. Diktador kasi yung ko eh. Diktador kasi yung Streamlabs ko. Kasi no problem will be solved kung magbatuhan na lang ng magkabilang side. Kahit anong problema pa yan, both sides have to work towards a solution. That is so true. Kaso ang problema katulad nga ni Miss Lenny tsaka ni Duterte, di ba? Dahil magkaibang partido, ibang hindi sila nagkakaisa. I think that is just the reality na kailangan nating harapin.
It's all right. Senator Marcos, please continue with your statement.
Naghang siya.
Go ahead. Go ahead, please, sir.
Alam mo, Pia, yung apology, voluntarily given yun. Hindi natin yun pwedeng ipilit
Impose.
sa kanya. Pero yung sa akin, yung recognition ng maraming kamalian in the past. Kasali doon yung hidden wealth na hanggang ngayon hindi pa din natin nakukuha. At yun ay nakaw yun sa taong bayan. Hindi yata natatama na i-acknowledge lang yun. Kailangan ibalik yun sa atin.
I cannot give what I do not have. I do not have what you are. I do not have control. I do not have any knowledge of any of the things. Once again, let me repeat, I cannot give what I do not have.
Okay, yan ang mga greatest questions, no? Saan nang gagaling ang datong ng mga Marcoses? That is the biggest question. For me, ewan ko sa iba. Siyempre, kailangan natin ng transparency. Saan nila nakukuha yung mga ganitong kadatungan? At siyempre, kung mag-speculate kayo ng ill-gotten wealth, kailangan din nyo rin patunayan. Di ba? Again, rule of law, due process, siyempre. Sabi dito, pati Beatles, sinasabing walang iya si Marcos Parang napanood ko yan sa Twitter. Ay, sa Insta, TikTok, kung na nagkakamali. Grabe, diktador na si Streamlabs. Sorry na po. Pagalitan ko yan mamaya. Ako magdiktador dyan sa Streamlabs na yan. Totoo yun, hindi dapat ipukol kay BBM martial law abuses. Yeah. Ibang issue na kasi yun Sabihin natin, hindi naman siya bata na, no? Pero, as Attorney Libayan said nga, di ba? Diktador nga yung tatay, paano magkakaroon ng say si BBM doon? Ang question dyan, yung wealth. Saan nakukuha yung way of living nila, o yung pamumuhay nila.
Tapos yung mga ill-gotten wealth, sir, wala kayo sa inyong...
Lahat ng aking nasa salay ko, maliwanag kung saan nanggaling, maliwanag kung ano, at...
None of this are ill-gotten? None of your wealth is ill-gotten, sir?
Of course
Family
not.
wealth? No?
Not.
Siyempre, hindi naman aamin yun.
Senator Marcos is spending a lot of money in this campaign. He's been paying off mayors, congressmen, governors. He's been giving out money left and right. And you ask yourself, where's all that money coming from?
And likewise din, hindi lang kay Marcos yan. Sa lahat ng kandidato dapat tinatanong yan, no? And I think meron din ako nabasa o napanood na TikTok din kay Miss Lenny, di ba? Na para may interview siya, kung tinatanong ko saan nakuha yung pera, saan niya nilalagay. I think that was an edited video na marami naniniwalang ibang tao na na parang pinapasok daw niya sa sarili niyang pera. Donation kasi nga yun So, tsaka plus, cut yung video. So, unfair din kay Miss Lenny yung kumakalat nga na ano ba tawag doon? Edited na videos. Unfair yan. Both, in both sides din. Hindi lang kay BBM yan, tsaka kay Lenny. Pati din sa ibang mga kandidato. Sabi dito, may mga nakuhang Swiss account si BBM at IME beneficiaries. Well, kung totoo yan, syempre, kailangan sa korte pag-uusapan yan. At kailangan ipatunayan na yung pera sa Swiss ay galing sa ill-gotten. So again, korte na naman. Kaya mahabang usapin talaga yan kung tatanungin dyan.
This one is, of course, Picasso.
Painting.
Marcos would say, Imelda, I know how to earn money properly, but you know how to spend money properly because you buy beauty. This is by Fragonard and the other one is
oh no.
Michelangelo.
So mahal lahat yan. Except na lang kung fake.
We filed a motion with the Philippine Graft Court called the Sandigan Bayan and asked for a writ of attachment on these paintings because they are the subject of litigation. There was a team that went to her house in Makati, and they took photographs of the walls.
Oh, nawala.
You see that the paintings had been replaced.
Nako. Yan ang problema. No comment na lang ako dyan. Ano sabi dito? May nakausap ako na iboboto daw niya BBM dahil ibabalik daw nila ginto na pinautang sa ibang bansa. Chika lang. Saan din na nakuha information na yun? And wala sanang na-recover kung walang ninakaw. Jan TV, gandang gabi. Gandang gabi rin po.
Yan. There's another interesting photo. Here you
Ako,
can see the
questionable yan.
bust of President Marcos. And there are two important paintings on the left and right side. But subsequently, when the raiding team came in, there's the bust. The medals are still there. But instead of paintings, you have the photos of Mrs. Marcos and President Marcos. So they were removed. There's the Michelangelo.
So kala nyo lang no? Ninja rin ng mga Marcos. Ninja rin ang team nila.
Photo of President Marcos instead. And I was also told that the master's bedroom was locked. Okay, and that the team members were not allowed to go in.
Again, kailangan din syempre patunayan na yung mga paintings na yan, again, let us be fair din, na kailangan din patunayan na ill-gotten yan. Pero syempre, the mere fact na nawala ulit dyan, biglang nawala, meron sila advanced knowledge tungkol dyan sa information na magkakaroon ng raid. So, ganun kalakas. To be fair sa Marcos, malakas talaga ang information gathering nila, no? Sabi dito, dapat kasi hold muna yung last will and testament ni Marcos hanggat matapos yung kaso. They're trying to prevent other candidates for throwing past mistake. Yeah.
There was a
nangyayari
Monet
dyan?
painting that was recently sold in New York for $32 million by the social secretary of Mrs. Marcos. And that alerted the authorities, and they immediately conducted an investigation in respect of these funds.
Ano
So
nangyari?
together with a colleague, we went over to her house and asked her, Mrs. Marcos, we wanted to know whether you are claiming ownership of the painting. And she replied to me, in case I do say that I own the painting, will it be given back to me?
Ay, nako.
There have been
Pilipinas.
so many cases, God knows how many cases there have been. Imelda Marcos has gotten away with murder. I mean, she always gets acquitted.
Siguro, ako, ang stand ko dyan, baka may problema ang prosecution. Yung nagpo-prosecute, baka kulang sa ebidensya. Kapag naman kasi, kasi pag sinabi mong rig yung justice system natin, wala na, babaksak ang Pilipinas. So, yun lang ang commentary natin dyan. Dapat galingan ng prosecutor para talaga kung gusto nyo madiin ang mga Marcoses is matibay na ebidensya. Sadly nga lang, they don't have the masasabi natin technology noon, unlike ngayon na pwedeng bumalik ka CCTV, pwedeng balikan yung mga fingerprint, pwedeng balikan yung kung ano-ano mga pwedeng gamitin na ebidensya, no? Yun lang. Dapat dapat kasi NFT niya binebenta natin matri sa blockchain. Balay nyo. Di lang natin alam. Sabi nga ni Atty. Libayan, yung mga ibang mga may pera, dyan na lang nila tinatago sa pamamagitan ng money laundering na tinatawag, no? Dyan nila pinapasok sa mga masasabi nating mga NFT or sa mga cryptocurrencies, ika nga nila.
The stealing of the money by the billions impacted on the economic development of the Filipino people and made the people impoverished.
Uy, tigbe 20. Nag-cringe talaga ako pag nakikita kong ginagawa ni Miss Imelda yan. I'm so sorry sa mga
There's a
Imelda
huge
fans.
gap between the rich and the poor. If you're rich and you're in power, it becomes very easy for you to get the people to your side, ensuring that they're taken care of by funds and money that they spread around.
Ang cringe. Okay, sabi dito, pag iba talaga aplikasyon ng hustisya dito, Yeah, depende rin kasi, no? Lalo na sa mga lower ko, ano siguro, masabi na sa mga lower. Pero syempre, pag Supreme Court yan, hindi basta-basta mo ano yan, matadaya. Tapos, pero halos lahat walang napatunayan sa dami ng kaso, knowing na wala na talaga sila sa power. Again, prosecutor ang may issue dyan kung bakit di nila mapatunayan. Yaman yan ni Bongbong kahit di naman malaking negosyante. Ayan. Ano ba? Ayan na naman si Streamlabs, inaatake na naman ba ang inyong freedom of speech at freedom to chat? Diktador. Ano ba sabi niya, no? JC. Ano lang, emoticon lang. Okay. Streamlabs na mas mahigpit pa kay My Name is Chat. Baka naman si My Name is Chat.
To the mother of all, our only First Lady, Madam Imelda.
Only First Lady? Bakit?
With leaders who are one with their people, this nation will be strong again. Philippines will be
great.
A great nation again.
Sa libo? Sa libo nga. Sa libo ba 100? 1,000 yata o 100? Nakita. Alam mo, no, isa pa sa issue ko dito, lalo na kung usaping simbahan, no, at specifically sa, sabihin natin Catholics, no, ang nakaka-cringe lang talaga ang part na sila kapwa simbahan, silang kapwa Katoliko, sila rin nagbabangayan. Mas talo pa nila yung mga Marcos at saka Aquino. Yung silang mga loyalista, sila yung talagang todo mag-away sa internet na nakalimutan nila na kapwa sila Katoliko. Diba? May ganun eh. Hindi ko lang alam sa mga Muslim kung may nag-aaway na Muslim or sa sa Indian kung may ganyan din bang thinking na sila rin nag-aaway pero magkakarelihiyod yung mga yan, no?
Became First Lady, it became more demanding for me if I'm
poverty porn yung 1K sa mga bata.
Going to the slum areas, I have to dress up and make myself more beautiful because the poor always looks for a star in the dark of the night.
Wow. What a quotation.
Ang ganda rin siya si Imelda na may edad na siya, maganda pa rin. Lalo na sa pananamit. Talagang nakakaano.
Pero wag kasi gawin nyo ng batayan nyo sa pagboto. Wag lang tingnan yung mga yung panglabas na anyo. So, voters education talaga importante rin, no?
Mas maganda noon kay Marcos kasi
Ayan na naman tayo sa mas maganda ng panahon ni Marcos.
hindi kami naghihirap ng gutom. Kami naghihirap ngayon. Ibuboto ko si Marcos, si Bongbong Marcos. Para naman mabago.
Yun nga yung isa sa mga diskusyon din nila, no? Maraming taon na rin daw namuno ang mga Aquino, ang mga Liberal Party, pero wala rin nangyari. So, yan yung mga rebuttal sa internet na nababasa natin, eh. Sabi dito, during late 90s or early 90s, may napanood ako trial sa TV kay Imelda Marcos. Na-quit siya, di ba? Sa Amerika pa sila. Tapos sabi ni Vincent, check niya lang paano namuhay Marcos. Tapos sa mga kapatid natin sa Islam, after ng election, united ulit sila or hindi, masyado magulo ang politics. Ayan. So, ganun para sa Islam, hindi ko rin alam eh. Pero ako, for sure ako dito sa mga Catholics, sila rin nag-aaway. So, siguro, hindi lang Catholics, pati yung mga ibang mga Christian sects.
This continuing poverty nurtured the intolerance of the people and their belief that only a strong man could give them security.
If I become the president, I will eradicate corruption, criminality, and drugs.
Yan ang hinahanap talaga ng mga tao. Is straight to the point mo yung gagawin mo sa Pilipinas. Kaya maraming na-disappoint kay Miss Lenny doon sa kanyang speech dahil ang haba daw. Tapos di naman daw masyado nasabi yung kung parang pinaka-agenda ng kanyang pagka-presidente.
People want instant gratification.
And they see in Mayor Duterte and his promises,
Noy.
the idea that all the problems will be solved in a relatively short period of time.
And to be fair din naman kasi, sino ba naman presidente ang makakasolve ng problema in 6 years? Walang presidente, ewan ko kung superhuman na lang siguro yun, no? Kung in 6 years, matatapos yung problema ng Pilipinas, di ba? So, to be fair, sa lahat ng presidente, kasi sino pang iluklok nyo dyan, I think hindi sapat ang 6 years para masolusyonan yung problema ng bansa.
Mayor Rodrigo Duterte took the #1 spot in the latest presidential race survey. Meanwhile, Senator Bongbong Marcos Jr.
Taas ni
got the
Bongbong,
lead in the
26.
vice presidential survey with 26%.
Which is ganyan din ang nangyayari ngayon. Mataas si Bongbong sa mga survey, sa mga internet, pero ano ang mangyayari pagdating sa halalan? We'll see in the future.
Since Ferdinand Marcos, the Constitution dictates the one-term presidency. And I tend to agree to that. But you cannot fix all of our problems in 6 years.
Totoo naman.
The elitist type of democratic rule that followed after Marcos did not really go down to the poor people.
Likewise din naman sa ibang administration. Ganun din no. Though ako naman siguro, isa rin sa pwede ko sisihin dyan, mga voters natin Hindi rin, again, no. Sorry sa mga voters. Kasama. Kung tataasan pa natin yung standard natin sa mga mga politiko, for sure uunlad yung bansa natin. Problema, mababa standard natin Yan ang problema natin diyan
What matters now is for them to be informed.
Mga students. Ito, high school.
Ano ang nababasa nyo or naririnig nyo tungkol sa martial law, tungkol kay Marcos?
Ano sagot ng mga chikiting?
Nung panahon po ni Marcos, lahat po ng mga tao disiplinado.
Lahat daw ng mga tao disiplinado. I doubt. May nagrarally nga.
Pero ano naman po, narinig ko din po na naging mayaman po yung Pilipinas sa sa regime niya po. Pero po dahil po doon sa martial law, naging maayos tsaka tahimik po yung Pilipinas.
Naku, sa internet yan, gulo na naman yan sa comment section pag yan ang topic.
Yung panahon daw po ng martial law, nagiging mapayapa po yung mga buhay ng tao.
Wait, punta tayo sa comment section. Sabi, sa chat section, sabi dito, yes, may cases na guilty kaya di sila makabalik doon. Eradicate corruption, oo, sana totoo, pero hindi kaagad yan masosolve. Totoo, not guilty sila sa Amerika, pinakita kanina sa documentary. Dito, guilty na si Imelda sa kasong graft. Si Erap ba naman binoto dati porket sikat anyar sa Pilipinas? Si FPG, kundi lang nadaya, di ba? Siya ang presidente natin ng 1 taon siguro kasi namatay din siya after. Kaya naniniwala ako talaga yung pagiging presidente is a destiny Totoo yung sinasabi ni Imelda na talagang yan Imaginin mo kung nanalo si si FPJ nung panahon, hindi siya na dinaya ni GMA. Tayo agad? Merong deads na presidente. na deads na stroke, di ba? At sa pa dito, ang isang setback lang, if ever manalo si BBM, hindi maaalis ang revenge dyan. Isa sa nakikita ko, or karamihan, opinion lang po. Yun nga sana dapat matanggal. Sana ayan ang idiktik ng mga teacher natin, no? Sa mga chikitig natin ngayon na itigil yung revenge politics.
Our education system has not been able to put the lessons of history in the history books. Since the return of the Marcoses, there's been a trickle of new information in YouTube, in Google. That's a revision of
Di pa sikat ang
the
TikTok nung panahon na yun,
interpretation of martial law. We are sure it's the Marcoses.
Of course, siguro naman, totoo naman yun. However, sabi nga nila, meron kasi ibang experience sa martial law. May iba na dahil tumahimik yung lugar nila. Katulad nga ng kinukwento ng tatay ko, sa kanilang area nila sa Mindanao noon, tumahimik, naging maayos. Meron naman sa iba, katulad nga nung nangyari dun sa aktivistang na torture, yun ang nangyari sa kanya, pang-aabuso. So, iba't iba talaga perspective ang maririnig natin tungkol sa martial law. Kaya, hindi nakapagtaka talagang hindi tayo mag-unite dahil hindi natin ina-understand yung pain ng bawat sides, 'di ba? Yung isa, porket masaya sila, hindi na nila masyadong iniintindi yung nag-suffer sa Kaya cycle lang yung hindi nila pagkakaunawaan.
Perception is real and the truth is not.
Wow, lalim.
Pero palagay ko masama na magsisinungaling na sa social media lang kung ano-ano yung lumalabas na hindi naman totoo. Parang yung worry ko lang na because of the kind of campaigning na ginagawa ng iba, parang malin lang yung tao.
Ang kailangan kasing patunayan diyan, sino nagpapakalat nun. Once na nagkaroon tayo ng tamang sabihin natin magandang cyber division na talagang kaya man-trace yan. Ang sarap sana, no? Sa tunay na buhay, maganda sana yung matitrace kung sino, Kasi, sa panahon natin ngayon, madali na lang mag-plant eh. For example, ako, no? Kunwari, fan ako ni BBM. Pwede kong gawin. Gagawa ko ng mga fake news tungkol kay Miss Lenny, di ba? May mga ganun eh. Yung iba kasi, sa sobrang pagiging panatiko nila, pwede nilang gawin yun eh. So, sana, kung maganda lang yung cyber, division natin at mahuhuli natin yung mga nagpa-fake news na yan. And, if I'm not mistaken, siguro sa next videos natin or next week, next week, may papakita ko sa inyo na isang movement ng mga supporters ni Miss Lenny kung saan meron silang at 8 p.m. Mass reporting sila ng mga fake news. So, later sa yan, siguro this week or sa Tuesday, Wednesday natin ilalabas yung video na yan.
Sa kung panid ara purki kaning tanan digi hindi kami rin malyag digi pa sa mga tagipuson ang konsumisyon ang sakit ang luba ara panabuyol
pati na translate yung konsumisyon
hindi naman maresibi si Bongbong
syempre galit na kayo sa Marcos sa automatic na yan.
People who forget the mistakes of the past are condemned to repeat it. Have we not learned our lessons?
Hanggat, guys, may dadagdag ko sa sinabi niya, no? Hanggat may tumatangkilik ng poverty porn, uulit at uulit lang tayo. Yan ang sekreto dyan eh. The mere fact na ang mga politiko gumagamit ng poverty porn at nauuto ang mga Pilipino sa poverty porn, dyan tayo may problema. Hindi natin nilalawakan yung isip natin na saan niya nakukuha yung perang pantulong na yon. Pero dahil konting 500, 20 pesos, 100, 1,000 na ibigay sa atin, may savior na tayo nakikita sa isang politiko. Eh, hindi natin nare-realize na nakokorap lang pala yun. Kumbaga investment lang nila yon, di ba? ROI. Pagdating ng 6 years, ROI na sila. Ayun na naman tayo sa NFT na naman tayo, Axie na naman.
Diyan, ang kahoy nga diyan ay diyan ang pinakaarigi ang butangan ni ang GRP anang bilang kakulungan. Kanya yung daradigi sa Karawit.
Ito, nakakaawa itong mga hayop na ito.
Kung panganiga di ang tawag diyan, remembrance naman sa pag-abuti ang ayop.
Kasi dahil nag-iba na ng pamumuno, hindi na inalagaan. Just as sad. Final Marcos rallies before election day.
Ayusin namin ang halalan para sa iyo. Ay, beka ako, paano ngayon mangyayari yan? Unang-una, hindi ko kailangan mandaya dahil nasa atin ang tao.
So, sorry, na-delete yung sinabi ni Gen TV. Sabi niya, ayun nga, nauuto sa poverty porn. Ayan. Sorry sa Streamlabs ko, ha. Except si Pacman, alam nating mayaman talaga. Pero sabi ng tatay ko, kwento lang naman niya, no, ang mga taga Mindanao parang hindi daw believe din sa kanya. Kasi kung pupuntahan mo din daw yung distrito niya, yung Sarangani, ay isa rin daw. Di umano, sabi ng tatay ko lang naman, isa rin daw sa mga may hirap na probinsya na hindi naman naaangat hanggang ngayon. So, yun lang. Yun lang ang problema. Sad life.
Alam niyo, taray sinasabi ko, napakaswerte ko namang tao. Naging nanay ko is Imelda Romualdez Marcos.
Ayan. Nag-uutuan na si...
Nagsasalita siya, sabi ko, siguro hindi na ako kailangan magsalita. Yung sasabihin ko, yung sinabi niya, yun. Kaya palagay ko, tamang-tama na itong aking anak. Nakita ko, sinama ko na yung anak ko, si Sandro. Oh.
Si Sandro na nalaglag sa
Pwede na
lolo niya.
mag-retire, ano? Pwede na siguro, pagtanan natin ito. Oh, tama, Sandro, magpapahinga na ako. Ikaw na ngayon nandito. Ano yan?
Doon sa isang video na reaction video na gagawin natin tungkol kay Raffy Tulfo, pinag-usapan doon yung political dynasty, no. So so para naalala ko lang sabihin dahil ito kasi political dynasty yan eh. At maraming kontra sa political dynasty. At ako ang ano ko doon, commentary ko sa political dynasty is okay lang naman. The problem is some politicians are ine-exploit yung kabobohan ng mga botante na kahit hindi na sila karapat-dapat, naboboto pa rin sila. So, alam mo yan, puro problema lang talaga. Copyright ba itong kantang to? Oh, may hug. Wow. Spoiler alert. Di po siya nanalo. Spoiler alert. Sorry po.
Good morning.
Sabi ni Vincent Romero, basta wag sa dynasty. Ang stand ko sa okay ang dynasty kung yun naman talaga ang niluklok ng mga tao. Karapatan siyempre ng bawat tao na mamili kung sinong trip nila. The problem is kasi sinasamantala ng mga politiko yung mga kabobohan ng mga botante na iniikot-ikot na lang sila sa pamilya nila. That's the sad thing about the dynasty. Pero, tandaan natin yung freedom pa rin ng bawat tao kung sinong gusto nilang piliin bilang isang politiko sa kanilang lugar. Yun lang yung sad part doon. Si Bong Revilla nagbudots, walang plataforma, nanalo. Again, teachers. Sa teachers natin yan. Kaya kung pag-aralin yung anak nyo, maghanap kayo ng eskwelahan na talagang masasabi nating maituro rin ng tama ang history at yung manners.
The old job seemed like a walk in the park compared to this one. Before, the main task was to try to recover ill-gotten wealth. Now it is to preserve our democracy.
He was newly appointed to be the chief for the elections in preparation to knock us out again, I suppose.
And you think you're confident of victory, sir?
Yes, I'm feeling that by all indications, we should be successful today.
Ako, another disaster in the making na naman tong makikita natin.
The Filipino people are grateful people, and they know what side of the bread is buttered and for whom to vote for.
Problema, di lahat ng Pilipino ganun. Di lahat ng botante marunong. Stay out, sir. Kamusta kaya ang magiging botohan natin this coming election? No? Sana matuloy yung internet voting, no? Pero syempre may question na naman yan, no?
I can ask for another ballot.
Yeah.
I messed up. I shaded two presidents.
Oh my gulay. Sandro, ka na? Strike 2 ka na. Nilaglag mo yung lolo mo kanina. Ngayon naman, sinade mo, dalawang Sandro.
It is now approximately 1 to 2 hours before the close of our polling places.
Ako, kasara na,
And
patapos
we
na.
are preparing for the transmission of results of the elections.
Ito na ba yung mga canvassers? Bongbong's Campaign Head HQ. That smile ay mapapawi.
Presidente, una pa rin si Bongbong Marcos, 31%.
Also, you feel quite relieved? There's been a good result.
We're not yet there. When I take my oath, I'll be relieved.
At mula nun, di na siya na-relieve. Disaster in the making na. Ayan na.
The extremely close vice presidential race is keeping many people
Grabe,
on the
close
edge of their
fight.
seats.
The day after the election, Lenny Robredo leads by 223,000. Ito, nagsadasal ba si ano? Si Bongbong? Alam nyo guys, nagki-cringe din ako sa mga ganyan nagdadasal-dasal sa simbahan tapos may media. Napaka-cringe.
Bongbong Marcos is firm. He will not concede the vice presidential race to Lenny
Siyempre,
Robredo.
close ang fight. Alam na mag-concede. I have
Okay,
one.
we're now going to an ANC live event as Senator Bongbong Marcos is holding a media briefing after filing an electoral protest before the Supreme Court. That's the Senate.
Against Lenny Robredo, the supposed and proclaimed Vice President from the last
proclamation,
elections, because we have
Kasuhan na.
been able to gather much evidence concerning several aspects of the election.
Right after I realized that I was winning, I already knew 100% that he will not accept defeat because this is the nearest that he already got to being back in power.
Totoo.
He did not want to disappoint his mother or his family. This is a shortcut to get back to power instead of trying again in the next elections.
Jackie?
Actually, ang ano, kung ako ilalagay sa lugar ni Bongbong, no, ang chairman ng COMELEC noon ay yung humahabol din sa iyo dati sa pamilya mo ng PCGG ng mga kayamanan, hindi nakakapagtaka talaga na magrereklamo. Kung ako man na nasa lugar ni Bongbong, no, na syempre, kahit siguro sinong tao, daling ko sa lugar ni Marcos, tapos biglang overnight. Kalayaan naman yan. Hindi naman natin sinasabing mali yung ginagawa niya, pero karapatan naman ni Bongbong Marcos na gawin yon. However, hindi nga lang pumabor talaga sa kanya ang pagkakataon.
What's the latest?
Hi, Vivian. You're right. The canvassing of votes for president and vice presidential candidates is finally over after 3 days. Lenny Robredo
Panalo, Lenny.
is the vice presidential frontrunner with 14.4 million
Close
votes,
match.
followed by Bongbong Marcos with 14.1 million votes.
Ang close ng lano. Oh, mahirap dayain yung kay Duterte. Nice intro. Wow.
Such an interesting case study, Duterte.
Yeah.
I have to say,
Definitely.
did you see this coming?
No,
Okay.
I didn't see
It's
this
like
coming.
Trump. No one saw Trump coming.
Kaya huwag kayong maniniwala sa mga political analyst. Huwag kayong magpapauto sa mga yan. Tingnan nyo, laki ng pinalpak nila kay Duterte noon.
Somebody has to answer for all of these things that's happening.
Cesar Montano ba nasa likod niya?
Kayo nga sa droga, utang ina, papatayin ko talaga kayo. Tingnan ninyo. Kaya wala akong pasensya dyan. Wala akong middle ground dyan. Either you kill me or I will kill you, idiots.
Yan ang hawak ngayon ng ng nasa criminal International Criminal Court kay Duterte, kaya good luck kay Duterte after ng kanyang term. Yun lang ang masasabi ko kay Pangulong Duterte.
I think people voted him to power because he looked like them. He spoke like them. Of course, it turns out that he isn't at all from the poor. His parents are rich and so on. But he managed to package himself so that he looked like one from the people.
Ito ba fair naman kay Duterte, di naman talaga extravagant yung bahay nila. Di naman sila mahirap na mahirap, pero di naman sila ganun kayaman na mayaman.
April akong mayor, dumating pagka dito sa, di ko nga, sa totoo lang, just to illustrate to you how this destiny plays out. Wala akong pera. Si Amy pa ang nagbigay. Sabi niya, inutang daw niya.
Nilaglag
Si
si
Amy
Amy.
supported me.
May laglag si Amy.
I do not know it because of, my father was a cabinet member of President Marcos
Cringe.
during the first term of his presidency.
Ang cringe naman. Talagang nilagay pa yung connection nila. Outfit. Talaga si Duterte.
Katotohanan doon sa sinasabing nag-contribute daw kayo sa campaign.
Alam mo masyado yung ating presidente. Alam mo naman si president.
The joke.
Provocador.
Well, first of all, wala naman akong kinalaman na deal. If there's the close, we have been supportive of him, and from the very beginning, if there was any help, any assistance given to then candidate Duterte, it was in the form of political endorsement. It was a form of political
Oh
support.
my, ang cringe pala nun. Ba't di ko nabalitaan yan masyado?
Obviously,
O di lang ako aware.
there's that connection wherein money that had been looted and hidden is now being brought back into the Philippines in order to finance political campaigns. The PCGG was created solely to pursue the ill-gotten wealth of the Marcoses. And what they want to do now is to give that power to the Solicitor General, who actively campaigned
For the Marcoses.
Senator Marcos in the 2016 elections.
Which is hindi naman yata naganap yan, di ba? Spoiler nyo nga ako. Di ba ang PCGG, ganun pa rin naman ang mandato niya. Hindi naman napunta sa Solicitor General.
Cases will probably be dismissed, and that the assets that are under supervision of the PCGG will probably be returned to the Marcoses.
Kailangan ko lang sumausaw to sa chat, no? Sabi dito, important sir ang history para di maulit past mistake. While I do agree na kailangan talagang pagbalikan ng past, what I do hate is yung pagta-transfer ng hate. Okay lang pag-aralan yung batas eh. Okay lang na pag-aralan ng martial law, pag-aralan yung mga mali noon. Pero yung hate dun sa kapwa mo tao, ang pinapasa mo sa next generation, yun yung mali. Dapat yun ang i-let go natin. Kasi pag yung hate nandyan, walang mangyayari sa Pilipinas. Away-away pa rin yan. Sabi nga ni, di ba? Ni General Luna, General Luna, na parang ang mga Pinoy, pag pinag-away, pag merong usapin yan, hindi yan magkakasundo basta-basta.
It is quite ironic that having gone after the Marcos ill-gotten wealth, which is in the billions of dollars, I am now being accused of
Nabaliktad
having
na.
ill-gotten wealth in the millions of pesos. And these allegations are baseless. And yet,
Sabi ni Miss Ella, pero okay lang nakasuklaman ang magnakaw. Inagnakaw. Ano? Again, no? Hayaan natin ang batas. Tapos, wag na lang natin i-spread yung hate. Okay lang naman yan eh. Okay lang naman pag-aralan yung mga ganyang bagay. Basta itigil natin yung spread ng hate. Sabihin natin na, ito ang wag natin gagawin. Mga kabataan. Yung ginawa ni Marcos na sabihin natin, pang-alipos na, mali yan. Pero wag na natin i-spread doon sa kaapu-apuhan nila yung hate na yon. Iiwan natin doon sa kanino nakaakma yung galit.
they were being made, I know, because they wanted to destroy my credibility, as well as the credibility of the 2016 elections.
Little did we know that the Marcoses financed, in a big way, the election of Duterte. So it was a very convenient alliance, which is now paving the way for Bongbong Marcos to get to Malacanang, the sooner the better.
Actually, ang what if ko dyan sa scenario na yan, what if kung si Bongbong ang bise ni Duterte, yun ang pinaka what if na hindi nga lang naganap kasi nga God knows why, no? Pero yun yung nangyari dyan.
Ano bang latest count ito kay Bongbong pati kay Vice President ba talaga yan?
Vice President ba?
Almost everyone who has the balls to criticize him in public get ostracized, get persecuted. And I'm fully aware. I'm fully aware that my being very vocal of this administration's policies will cost me something. But if I don't do it, who will?
The fact that President Aquino appointed me got me into the hit list of people that they wanted to be removed. for the well-being of my family, including myself, I thought that it would be beneficial for everybody concerned that I first leave the Philippines.
So
I went
umalis na
to
siya.
my brother in Oklahoma.
Wala siya sa Pilipinas.
I am scared to return to the Philippines.
Mas lalo din siya makabalik
Ever
pag nanalo si BBM.
The new administration has come in. The Marcoses have been able to regain a lot of political clout. They have scrubbed clean the sins of the past, and they're trying to project themselves as the leaders for the future.
Sabi dito, ang sa akin kasi napatunayan sa Supreme Court na elgatan ng yaman nila, pero di nila acknowledge at talagang nilalaban pa yung pang squatter, sequester pala, squatter, sequester ng yaman nila. Sabi ni Attorney Libayan sa pagkakaalala ko, hanggat may pending na appeal, hindi pa talaga siya masabi nating pwedeng sabihin agad. Pero may mga kaso. Ang pinakamaraming kaso nga lang, itong ang problema dito namatay na kasi si Ferdinand Marcos. So yung kahabulin nyo patay na. Kaya talagang walang makukulong.
Hero politika na yan. One is the president. Number one qualification, malibing ka.
Ako, ito na yung ano ba?
Payback time for campaign contributions. This is the title of our statement.
Yan na ba yung pagpapalibing?
We express our gravest concern that the Marcoses bought and paid for the privilege of having the dictator's remains buried on sacred ground. We
Away na naman yan sa social media pag yan ang pinag-usapan natin.
Flagrant abuse after the people's judgment of the Marcoses in 1986.
Graft case ang inappeal nila pero may SC case na nagsabi na elgatan talaga. Again, due process. Hayaan natin yung korte na magtrabaho sa kanilang trabaho at kunin ang dapat kunin. Ganoon naman tayo Para, alam yon, ma-maintain natin yung peace. Kasi, the mere fact na nag-aaway-aaway pa sa social media, no? Ang laging sagot natin dapat dyan, let the due process go. Gawin natin yung trabaho ng hayaan natin yung korte sila gumawa ng paraan para mabawi yung mga pera na yan. At kung ayaw nila isole, edi sampahan pa nila ulit ng kaso, di ba? Ayan na ba? AGK na bang usapan dito?
This president, during his campaign, he said the funeral parlors should prepare for more business. And now we have 30,000 people killed. Deaths under investigation.
Raid po yun.
Ano nangyari dito? Ito sa raid.
Matay po siya, binaril po siya. Dahil doon sa raid.
Alam niyo yung isang problema dyan, bakit nagaganap yan? Body cam. Wala tayong body cam Yan ang issue dyan Hopefully, ngayon meron na yata. Pero ewan ko na sa probinsya kung meron ng body cam. Meron ako nakita sa korte na nagbibigay ng nung subpoena or nung warrant of arrest. Pero makikita mo yung yung nagbibigay, meron ng body cam. Which is a good thing. So, mas maganda sana na-avoid to kung noon pa na-approve na yung body cam na yan. Which is, hindi ko alam ba't di ma-approve before.
Hindi ko na po maalala kasi po pag naalala ko rin po, mas lalong masakit po yun. Masakit sa pangarap. Po, ang pinakabiktima po talaga yung mga bata.
It is happening again. And it reminds us of what it felt during the time of the Marcos dictatorship. We don't know what to do, actually. You cannot run to the police. It's the police that's doing it.
Okay, syempre, ang favorite natin tanong sa mga ganitong senaryo, sino ang laging mag-gain ng malaki sa mga ganyang kabalastugan? So, kung masasagot yung tanong na yon, alam din natin kung sino ang may pakana niyan. Ayaw pakita ng soko sa camera.
Wala po putang tao doon dahil po kasi baka takot po sila, baka po madamay sila. Kaya patayin din po sila.
So bakit? Bakit nga ba ganun?
Kaya nagsisiho ako na naibuto ko yan si Duterte. Dahil sa ginawa niyang pinapatay niya, inuuna niyang pinapatay lahat ng mahihirap. Yung mga gumagamit lang ang pinapatay niya. You know, masakit ho ang loob namin, pamilya.
Pero ngayon, ang nangingibabaw po sa puso namin ay ang takot. Takot na baka mamatay kami, takot na baka mamaya. Ganun din ang gawin sa amin na kagaya ng pagpatay nila sa asawa ko.
Oh, marami din daw pinapatay si Marcos, pero hindi naman kagaya ngayon na pinakikita talaga nila ng talagang lagi nasa TV, sa balita.
Okay, bigyan natin ng konting perspective to, syempre wala naman sa matinong katinoan yung gagawin talaga na, well, may video kasi, no? Pahamak kasi to si Duterte, no? Meron kasi masasabi natin yung ibang mga, sabihin natin kawatan, no? Sinasadya talagang gawin yan. Meron sila mga insider. Meron din namang iba na talagang tatanga-tanga lang sa paggawa ng SOP. Barrel jam, barrel sa ganito. Power trip, ika nga nila, no? So, again, na masasabi natin dyan, due process. Ireklamo ang dapat ireklamo at huwag tayong maging vigilante. Yun lang ang masasabi natin dyan. Kasi mahirap, topic to dahil na naman to eh. Gulo na naman sa social media to pag ito pinag-usapan natin.
Para na lang mga hayop yung pinapatay nila.
Since
Walang sisiw.
Duterte cannot govern democratically, he has to create an enemy to justify the use of force.
So yun yung ang kanyang perspective na gawa-gawa rin ni Tatay Diggs or ni Digong yung mga ganitong patayan para ma-justify at soon to be nga daw na magma-martial law, which is di naman nangyari. Nangyari lang naman yun sa Mindanao dahil may kaguluhan naman talaga. Pero again, at the same time, pwede rin naman gawin din ng kalaban yan sa kanya. Pwedeng gawin ng kalaban sa politika na maggawa ng mga ganitong raid, 'di ba? Wala naman para masisi yung presidente. Pwede rin naman mangyari 'yon. So again, mahirap talaga i-judge yung mga ganitong senaryo. Nabalik na naman tayo sa martial law. Ito ba sa libingan ng bayani? Okay. Pag ako nagkakamali, pumanig ang di ba, ang Supreme Court dito sa libing na to. So kung pumanig ang Supreme Court, wala na rin tayong commentary diyan kung sakali man.
The burial of Marcos sa libingan ng bayani.
It was
Tapos na tayo, 4 minutes na lang.
fervent wish that when he came to the end of his days, that he be buried in a simple soldier's ceremony.
So
We
wala
thank
na yung
President
box doon sa
Rodrigo Duterte for his recognition
Saan dati yung
of my
libingan?
father's service to the nation. Let us be the heroes that my father asked us all to be and finally bring the Filipinos to greatness.
One day we will just wake up and find ourselves having a new vice president, and that is Bongbong Marcos, because the conditions
Yes, 8-7 vote in favor of burial if I remember correctly. Grabe, close match pa, di ba? But then again, rule of law, yun ang susundin natin.
are there. The Supreme Court, which is trying the protest case, is friendly to Duterte and to the Marcoses because it's the same Supreme Court that allowed the burial of the late dictator at the Heroes Cemetery. Duterte has been very vocal that he would resign as president if he had Bongbong Marcos for vice president.
Oh, twist. Di naman nangyari yan.
Things will move the way President Duterte will want it to.
Now, the reason why I cannot tell you that we follow the constitutional succession
Because?
is this. Hindi ako nagkikipag-away ng babae. Hindi nga ako sumasagot kung ano yung sinasabi nila. I think deep in my heart. If you follow the succession and Robredo takes over, hindi niya kaya. Mas maglalo.
You need a strong leader.
Yun ang mahirap. Hypothetical lang naman yun eh. So, di naman basta-basta pwede i-judge lang ang tao. Pero, opinion lang naman ni Duterte. May iba naman siguro, iba opinion naman nila, ay okay lang si Lenny. So, respect na lang ang opinion nila.
You need a strong leader.
The preparation for the return of the Marcos family to political power started many years before many were aware of it. And people were just taking it too easy, not believing that it was possible.
You know, it
Yung mga
is
Amerikano nga,
really
nagulat eh.
inbreeding. Because when dynasties are embedded in the political landscape already, it's as if political positions can just be inherited. There have been a lot of recorded ill effects of allowing political dynasties to flourish.
RPN 9 pa to Naalala ko yung orasan na yan
I could not only be number one first lady. I had to be a mother. I had to embrace everybody, take care of everybody, love everybody.
Kambahan ka na, Miss Imelda. Si Mama Lenny na ang may hawak niya. Talagang uso ngayon. Pag babae ang tamatakbo, mother figure talaga ang general na Which is di natin kinukontra, Karapatan naman nila yan. Sinasabi lang natin, ang unang nag-claim yan si yung isa sabi si Ai daw. Ang ina ng bayan.
Ensure that there was a solution to all their problems. And I was there totally. I was no longer mother of my family, of the first family, mother of the people here in the Philippines. After a while, I was mothering already the world.
In fairness naman talaga sa first family noon, ang mga Marcoses talagang napakasikat
It is more than
nila.
a fairy tale because it's really unbelievable. I gave birth to what I dreamt of, and I always got my way. Now is the important thing, and so the past is past.
Tapos sunod niyan, John and Marcia
There
na
are so
ba?
many things in the past that we
Talaga,
should
hindi ko na
forget.
maalala. Bata pa ako noon.
In fact, it's no longer there.
Ano mangyayari niyan? Tapos na ba? In 2019, Facebook discovered hundreds of fake news accounts linked to Duterte and the Marcoses. Bigyan natin ibang perspective. Pwede rin itanim yan. So, pwedeng gawa nila Duterte and Marcoses yung fake news. Pwede rin yung kalaban nilang gumawa niyan. Let us be fair. With Duterte's support, Amy Marcos won a Senate seat after her term ended as governor. Amy's son was elected to her governor seat, preserving the Marcoses' political power in the North. Again, voters' choice yan. Wala tayong magagawa. Pangmamas electoral protest awaits a decision by the Supreme Court, which is wala na yata ngayon. Under pressure from the President Duterte, the Supreme Court's Chief Justice was removed and replaced with the pro-Marcos Justice. Ano ang reference itong under pressure? Sana nilagay sila ng link para makita natin yung sources. In July 2019, police charged Vice President Lenny Robredo and 35 other members of the opposition with plotting to oust President Duterte. I think wala naman nangyari sa kaso na to. Nangyari ba? Comment down below bago tayo matapos. If convicted, Robredo faces up to 12 years in jail. Some analysts believe that the charges against her are designed to help clear Bongbong's path to power, which is hindi naman nangyari. Uy, ito na pala natapos. Ayun. So natapos na natin. Buti hindi tayo umabot kay Atty. Libayan. At yun, no? At anong commentary natin doon sa video? Ano ba masasabi natin dyan? Ayan. Yun ang masasabi lang natin. Ay, ito. Masyado malakas ang audio ko. Yung background music ko. Up. Yan. So bago tayo magtapos, no? Commentary natin sa ang nakikita ko doon sa sa documentary na to, parang ang naging turning point ni Miss Imelda yung panloloko sa kanya. ni Mr. Ferdinand Marcos na parang from that point on, from best naging parang worse, I think, for them as a family, na parang naging say, wala nang kumbaga, nawala na ng say si Ferdinand Marcos sa mga sigurong masabi natin mga desisyon. Pero naniniwala rin naman ako guys na hindi lang mga Marcoses ang mga nakinabang sa mga nangyari ng martial law. Meron dyan, iba buhay pa nga. At I think mag-stay na silang tahimik ngayon. Pero I do believe hindi lang Marcoses yan, for sure. But then again, at the end of the day, the problem is yung hate campaign is nandyan. So kung hindi matatanggal yung hate doon sa pagturo ng history, the cycle will move, paulit-ulit lang yung cycle na yan. Mag-aaway yung dilawan, mga blue o anong kulay yan. Ikot-ikot lang yung away. So hopefully, mga teachers natin sa gandahan niyo yung pagtuturo ng history, no? Bigyan natin ng hayaan natin yung mga bata na matutunan nila yung mga facts, bahala sila magkaroon ng desisyon nila, kung ano man ang paniniwala ng pamilya nila. Huwag tayong maging bias mga teachers kung ano man ang ituturo natin, lalo na kung history pag-usapan, dahil naalala ko nung batang 90s, talagang yung teacher ko galit na galit sa mga Marcoses eh. Kaya pati sa iba sa mga classmate ko, hanggang ngayon, dala-dala yung galit sa mga Marcoses. Which is, I think, for me, my opinion is mali. Ang magalit tayo dun sa hindi lang sa mga Marcoses eh. Kasi solely napupunta lang sa Marcoses yung galit. Which is, in fact, dapat alamin nyo rin kung sino yung mga nakinabang dyan. Ngayon, kung may mga kasuhan na talaga dapat yan. Yan ang natin dyan eh. Sa comment section, yes. And fact po na nakaw sa Republic of Sandigan Supreme Court case. Anyway, thank you Miss Ella. See you in blah just like TV yan. Baksak ang Streamlabs. Sorry naman sa Streamlabs. And again guys, no, comment down below kung after nitong stream natin ay kung hindi nyo mapapanood later on, panoorin nyo. Bigay kayo ng reaction nyo dito. Kung nagandahan ba kayo sa Kingmaker na yan. Ako, mukhang okay naman siya. Kung tatanggalin ko yung biases ko, it's an okay documentary. Pero kung may bias ka, syempre, magagalit ka or matutuwa. Sa akin, it's an okay. Kumbaga, nakita naman yung both sides of their side. So, bahala na lang kayo kung ano ang papanigan nyo. Syempre, may kanya-kanya kayong biases. So, that's it guys, no? For our episode. For our reaction, live reaction. Hopefully, magkakaroon pa tayo ng ganitong episode. Papanoorin natin or pupuntahan natin yung mga accomplishments ng mga kumakandidato. So, ila-live natin yun kasi mahirap i-edit yun ng recorded lang, no? At yun guys, no? See you next time. Punta na kayo kay Atty. Libayan within any time yan, or kung sino man ang papanoorin nyo, magdi-dinner kayo. Again, thank you very much guys. Ingatan nawa po kayo ng Diyos sa inyong paggawa.